All right, everybody, I will call the December 18th, 2025 Select Board meeting to order. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. This meeting is being recorded on RCTV as well as Zoom. Overview of the meeting. 7:05 will have public comment for any items not on the brief agenda. 7:15 discuss and vote to execute a new grant agreement with Reading Community Television, RCTV. 7:45 discuss Burbank Ice Arena Memorandum of Understanding / Master License Agreement. 8:15 discuss and vote on set date extension for ad hoc commemoration Establishment Committee ACE, and 8:25 discuss and vote on procedure for town manager evaluation, including selection of direct reports to participate in a 360-degree assessment as outlined in section 5B of the town manager contract. 8:35 approve meeting minutes from December 2nd and December 3rd. All right, so first item is public comment. Anybody in the room? It's Maddie online.
It's Jackie tonight.
Oh, Jackie.
Yep.
Anybody on Zoom, Jackie?
No hands on Zoom.
Wow. All right, we will move on to 7:15. Discuss and vote to execute a new grant agreement with RCTV, page 4 of the packet. So I guess, Melissa, did you want to start on this?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Before I walk through the specific changes, again, I want to express my sincere appreciation to the RCTV board, the negotiation team, Angela, Kathy, Bob, and staff at RCTV. The process involved many hours of thoughtful discussion, collaboration, and compromise. I believe the hard work on all sides have resulted in a solid, balanced grant agreement that supports RCTV's mission, provides stability for the organization, and ensures accountability and transparency for the town and our residents. I'll outline the changes of the grant agreement that have been made since our December 2nd meeting. Actually, I believe all of those changes came from feedback from our board. So those are the items I'll outline. I'm not going to outline what I had already stated at our last meeting. In section 4B, we removed the phrase free of charge on the lease option, which Karen had asked to do, and that was in agreement with the negotiation team and their board. On section 4C, there was some wording added for fundraising requirements, which I know we're going to discuss more here tonight. This was input from Chris and Carlo. We did strengthen the language, but we did also add that there were four fundraisers per calendar year, but that I think is going to get brought up again to discuss a little more. The grant term and renewal structure. One of the most significant changes from the December 2nd one to tonight is that we're going to move to a straight 3.5-year agreement. This substantially lengthens the baseline of the contract period, but it also provides RCTV with greater certainty and helps support them the ability to hire and retain staff. The end of the agreement date I also wanted to mention, so it's 3.5 years, and this is done purposely because the end of the grant agreement aligns with their fiscal year. It also aligns, I think, with what their lease would be, which would be the end of June. In addition, Carlo, we added the 90-day notice. So that's the requirement in their lease agreement. So this would allow, if there was not going to be a renewal at the end of that 3.5-year period, it would align with their current lease at least. We added in section 11C, notification to the town on any executive director changes at RCTV. Section 12A, we added a requirement that all recorded meetings to be posted online within 5 business days, just to ensure timely public access to meetings. I think this was something Karen may have brought up. Also, another item on remote meetings on 12C, we clarified how remote or Zoom meetings are handled, and then we added that town will provide recordings to RCTV of meetings that are just done on Zoom, and that we've asked RCTV to upload those within 5 business days to their YouTube. In that process, we will, once this contract is signed and executed, that will be a process that we can establish here, I think at Town Hall with staff, that those meetings will just get sent over to RCTV, and there won't be a requirement for them to request them. Exhibit C, 14B, clear deadlines. What was this? They said a clear deadline requiring the measures aligned. Oh, in Exhibit C was the outlines of the procedures for each location that RCTV has equipment at. So we just set clear deadlines requiring to make sure those procedures and steps are in place. What else? Section 18, material breach. We added that a determination of material breach requires a simple majority vote of the select board. We also added that failure to comply with 4C, which includes fundraising, would also be considered a material breach. And then we agreed to provide RCTV a 90-day grace period while they get settled currently. This grace period does not apply to any misuse of PEG funds, but otherwise we're just going to give them a little time to, little transition buffer. And then we go down to Exhibit A. There was changes made. We expanded the requirement to do some outreach to inform local sports teams and youth programs, which I actually think was something that they were doing, but we just added that to Exhibit A. Just the requirement to reach out to those teams or programs that RCTV could lend equipment and it could train volunteers for them to record or live stream their games or programming. We also added that a candidate forum would be live streamed or recorded by RCTV, which is something they historically have done, and we just kind of put that in the contract to make it more formal. And in Exhibit B, and added a requirement that assets transferred to the town or its designees must be used solely for PEG access. This was something I think the attorneys worked out. This wasn't something that I was actually involved in. So, but I think altogether that, you know, these changes strengthen the agreement and, you know, hopefully provide RCTV with longer term stability and ensure transparency for the town. But if anyone has any questions of me, I'm happy to answer them.
Who wants to go first?
It's really loud here.
Karen.
I don't have a lot. Fundraising 4 times a year, does it matter if it's quarterly or can it be at any time?
The way it's worded currently, it just says 4 times a year. There's no requirement on the timing.
And I kind of didn't want that to be a material breach. I kind of wanted it to just to be in there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is for their benefit, so they would only gain if they do it. So I kind of didn't want that to be a material breach.
Okay.
Grant, there's somewhere in here about grant funds and letting us know what they're spending the grant money on.
Quarterly filings.
Oh, there is a.
No, as a courtesy, they'll provide town manager of a new program developed not utilizing PEG funding. I don't think that we should require that. What was the purpose behind that?
Can you tell me the section so I can?
Of course. I don't know what it is in the one on there, but the one that we got the other day, it's expenditure of PEG funds, section 5.
Which page number?
Well, I have page
It's
13.
3. Well, it's.
But it's probably page 3. And it's on the second, it's towards the end of the paragraph. It's like the last sentence. As a courtesy, RCTV board will notify the
Page
town
4,
manager.
right up top, page 4.
So page 4, got it. For the packet?
No, it's page 4 of the agreement.
It's the last line.
It's the last
before number
sentence.
6.
Right. So I know it says as a courtesy, but Do they have to?
Seven? Okay.
Part
so
of me
page
doesn't feel
7
like
of
we
the
need to know what they're doing with their grant money. We're only really responsible for their PEG money. As far as knowing what they're doing. Not that there's gonna be anything nefarious, but I feel like that's an added burden on them to report to us, unless it's easy for them to report it to us.
We can ask them,
And I don't want this to prevent us from signing it. Do you know what I mean?
no, I think this could be
Like tweaked a little bit.
maybe, I think the reason this was put in was of some of the concerns over the Reading Post and how that was handled with RCTV's board. So I think that's why this was put in, is just to keep the lines of communication and clarity and transparency open with the town and their board. But
Do you know what I'm saying? As far as like grant money, PEG funds is one thing, that's very controlled, but as far as how they spend the money they fundraise with, I think that they should have more control over that than we do.
I'm marking it off here.
And this is kind of silly, but not silly. In paragraph 10, the annual review, we have December to February. I was wondering if we could switch it January to March, because December's really busy.
Agree. We actually discussed that a lot, that timeframe, but they felt like it was realistic with when they have to submit their financials and when they can get them to
Okay.
us. We did actually talk about that
Okay.
a fair amount. And-
Okay, as long as
And
people
I mean,
think
I'm
it's,
fine moving it that month if we did think it had to be moved, but we did talk about
Okay.
that a fair amount.
okay. And then some of the changes to resolve some of my questions, so, yeah, my other note was material breach. I don't want to have anything to do with the fundraising. And that was it. Thanks very much for all your work, because I know this is, for all of you, it was an incredibly difficult, long, and I think it came out great.
Thank you.
Karen?
I don't have anything further. That's good. Thank you.
Carla?
Yeah, so to Karen's first point, Karen Rose Gillis, that line, it says as a courtesy, so I don't have a problem with it.
I just don't want them to be all of a sudden us dinging them because they either forgot or they didn't or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, yeah, you're right, but it's like, it's vague enough that they're not obligated to do it.
Okay.
That's the way I read it. So as a
Okay.
courtesy, that means it's a nice to have. It's a,
Okay.
you know, but again, because we don't want to give the lawyers too many changes, because that's all I'm saying.
I know.
And to the fundraising, ever since the beginning of all this, the goal was to tighten this up and have RCTV move forward, because they've been stuck, in my opinion. The board's been stuck, leadership's been stuck, and so the fundraising, yes, it only benefits them. But if we put nothing in there, yes, it's on them, but it's very easy to do fundraising. It's a flyer, it's an email to the base, it's social media. So I want some accountability from the board, from staff. It's not a heavy lift, in my opinion. It's not a heavy lift at all. They used to be much better at it. And I initially put quarterly, and I guess that's a little bit more pressure. But 4 times a year, I'm okay with. I didn't like once a year, because they're only gonna do one.
I don't have a problem with the 4 times a year. I just don't want that to be a material breach, because I think a material breach is really, really serious. And I think if we're touching base with them every 6 months or so, then we'll have our eyes on it all along. And if they're not doing as well as we kind of want, then I think in those times is when we can kind of encourage them or find out what the issue is or if they're having a problem.
But, right, but if it's not in here, then there's no accountability if they don't do fundraising at all. You know what I mean? I'm trying to make this so RCTV can better themselves and raise money. I want them to raise money. Hopefully they want to raise money.
But can't it still be in here without being a material breach?
Not for me, but I'm just one person. For me,
I'd like it to be in here, but I don't want it to be a material
No,
breach, that's all.
I hear you. We can have that discussion as a group. The other thing on the election, so Exhibit A, 1C. Let me go to it.
What page in the,
I'm getting to it. It's hard to navigate this.
so I guess if Jackie can also share this online, whatever page number he ends up saying.
18.
18 in the packet? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see, it's-
Exhibit A, Exhibit A, yes. So, yes, okay,
15
correct.
of the,
It's C and then it goes, is that an I?
Yes.
I don't know. All right. So A, there's a typo. It says viewing on candidate forum. I'm assuming that it's supposed to be a one. One in the yellow, it's supposed to be, it should be one candidate forum, I assume, not on candidate forum.
Crossed out.
But for me, there's 4 elected offices. And they used to do forums. I don't expect any kind of forum. This is streaming or recording. But it should be for all the elections. Not pick and choose, not one. One year we'll do Board of Library Trustees, one year we'll do RMLD. So for me, I would just like to tighten this up and make it all elections, local elections for elected official, which is there's 4 of us. Well, 5 if you count town moderator, but there hasn't been, I should say that, there hasn't been any kind of debate or forum. But this is just recording or live streaming. No hosting at all, so I like that tightened up. And to me, that's, again, they could be pulling a recording from somewhere and just posting it. I think a lot of people rely on RCTV to watch these forums. And so I like those, I guess 5, sorry. Select Board, School Committee, Board of Library Trustees, RMLD, and Town Moderator, if that ever happens. And that's it on that.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman, through you to Mr. Bosby. The intention of this language is, it's that they agree to do one forum, with all the candidates in it that are running, or whoever's in the forum, per each election cycle. So if there's a special election, so it's not limited to a particular seat or particular office, it's one candidate forum. So typically lately they've been school committee and select boards. But if
it doesn't say it in there though at all,
it's just the form, yeah.
so.
Can I
Election quarter course online subsequent viewing, one candidate, it is the typo you said, one candidate forum per election cycle. And so this is that they're committing to do at least one forum, right? Because last year there were multiple forums. So
Right.
if they don't want to be in a position where they have to choose if the local Democrats do a forum and the local Republicans do a forum, although last year I understand you do. So this was the conversation that was had. That led to this language.
So clarify a question. So the one that was done at the library between select board and then they did a school committee, would that be considered one forum or 2?
One.
Okay, that's what I
The whole
thought too.
evening is one forum. or
That's what I
any
thought
time
too.
of it.
And that's how they usually run, is consecutively. It's the wording's a little, I understand what you're saying, but I thought that I was understanding it, that it was
One event.
one
forum.
one host forum for all elected boards.
Well, they don't host, so it could be.
No,
Right.
not them. I'm saying whoever that one host is, but it's for all the elected boards for that election, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
But if there are multiple entities that bring forward
Different
multiple forums,
forums.
their obligation via this contract is only to have to commit to one.
One,
I
yes.
believe the board would try to get to multiples, but
Yeah, no, I just wanted to make sure I
they're only
understood.
obligated to one forum under this.
What if they're on separate nights? Then is it 2?
Oh, so
They
you're
only-
like, one
they
night we
would-
do this.
Scheduling could be-
Typically what happens?
It
Sometimes
depends.
it has in the past.
Sometimes boards aren't contested. If Board of Library Trustees sometimes it's contested, sometimes it's not, so there's no forum, because there's no need.
Right.
RMLD, same thing, obviously, school committee and this board, usually there's more people that run for the seats that are coming up.
Sure.
So I just want this tightened up. So if that was the way everyone understood it, let's just tighten it up, because this is very vague, and I didn't interpret that at all. One candidate forum.
That's the way that I interpret it, though, is one candidate forum, meaning the same thing that happened last year, every seat is contested on every single board and committee. RCTV is going to do one night, commit to at least a minimum of one night of recording that and doing it that way, and regardless of the participants who are there. I mean, obviously, I think that's fair. They can cover more, but I read it as completely open-ended and doesn't pick and choose. And I think it would be obviously in their best interest to cover everything, but it's hard to obviously organize and run these kind of things. So if they can at least cover something, it's better than nothing. I don't think this is something that, I'll go over my stuff after you're done. I sent Maddie some changes, and I have some change to this as well, but I don't think this is, this specific spot needs to be changed for that. I think you interpret it one way, I kind of interpreted Jane's scenario way. I think they have to at least do something. And if they're saying that, they're not even saying, if the same forum last year was held on March 13th, they would cover, if there's only one forum March 13th, they're covering it. If it's on for the whole day, because every board and committee is contested, they're covering the entire day of it.
And what if it's the 13th and the 15th?
They only have to do one day. And if whomever is running the thing splits it up like that, they only have to do one. I don't think it's a hill to die on the contract kind of to make it, because who's to say that there could be like 10 different forums? You always have to scale it out to something extreme. Like, do they have to cover all 10 now? Now they did these 2 over here. They're going to do 8 this way. Like,
No, I'm picking the exact 5 that people get elected. Say school committee, given what's happened, that there's 5 people for 2 spots. People are going to be very, very interested, and that's on a different night.
mm-hmm.
And for scheduling reasons or whatever, they do RMLD and us. The school committee doesn't get covered because it's a different night. All we gotta do is spell it out. I don't know what the big deal is.
I can understand that, where I think it would be in their best interest to cover the subsequent night.
So let's spell it out, that's all. It's not a big deal.
Melissa.
I think if we made a simple change of just saying RCTV agrees to live stream or record and post online for subsequent viewing, the candidate forum sponsored by one host per election season.
No.
Then you're
No.
picking and choosing. If the forum becomes split instead of joint, then you run the risk of picking sides, and we don't want that to happen. And you can't do 2, and now you're just spelling 2. I mean, we could do 2, I guess, but
We can do 1 instead of, and then change 1 for all. And this is just recording and or live streaming. I don't know what the
But
big deal
I
is.
think that, I think, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think the issue is not, they're offering to record or live stream. For example, the one that was done at the library, I think this is the easiest way to explain what I'm trying to say. The one that was done by the library, which was done by the Republican and Democratic committees. So they're saying whether that, my understanding of this is that whether that goes one night or 2 nights, they're gonna live stream or record that set of forums.
Not the way this reads.
I don't interpret it that way.
It says
I
1.
think they would just do the 1.
One night? I mean, I just want to tighten this up, that's all.
Can we, does anyone want to clarify if I'm understanding this correctly? Or if you guys disagree with what I'm saying?
Yeah, so my interpretation,
Say who you are.
I'm Angela Merrill, interim
Might have to
executive
turn it on
director.
as well.
Look at that. Thanks, Karen. Angela Merrill, Interim Executive Director, RCTV. When we met and talked about this, the understanding was that, yes, how Melissa was just describing it, that if there was one group hosting, but it did extend multiple nights because the select board would take up, longer because there happened to be 5 people. And then so school committee happens to meet that Thursday night, we would then cover both of those. So for whatever elected board is up for election that year, we would cover them. So even if it ended up meaning that there were 5 of them, because Board of Library was one night, Select Board was one night, school committee, we would cover them, but we would only cover one of each. Because if multiple groups within town decide they want to run candidate forums, that is what becomes very daunting on us.
I 100% agree with you. Let's spell that out, because this is vague.
So we can tighten that up, I
That's
feel.
fine.
Yep, but just to let you know, that's how we are interpreting it. So I think we are all on the same page.
Yeah,
And Melissa, I can suggest some language. We could say something along the lines like RCTV agrees to live stream or record and post online for subsequent viewing candidate forums so that a forum for each elected position is covered per election cycle, provided a forum is held for such position during that cycle.
I'm so glad.
So we can put something along those lines.
I did not. I'm so glad Jackie got that. I started to write and I lost
That could
it.
be prepared.
That's okay, but I mean, I think we can work it out with Bill, RCTV's attorneys, now that we understand specifically what the intent is.
Perfect. Are you good?
that's exactly what I said.
Okay, perfect. All right, awesome.
Why didn't you say that?
I did say it. I did say it. I'm not in lawyer speak,
All
but I
right.
said it.
Thank you, Ivrea. Thank you, Angela.
And I think I'd like to see more. I know we have the core events, annual events, the annual events. I forget where that is, but I think we all.
Same page.
I think we're all same page. I think we all know what we're talking about. Veterans, Memorial Day, all that, street fair, family. I'd like to add, at least to the annual events, the menorah and the tree lighting as annual events. And, if anyone wants to add more, like Winterfest, but I'd like to at least add those two to the annual meetings. And then I know there's notice and there's, they don't have, I know the staffing or whatever, but I was really shocked last meeting when tree lighting has been filmed for 15 years, and then the menorah has been filmed every time. That's not putting one thing against the other, but I'm like, tree lighting's been going on for a long time, and I didn't know it wasn't being recorded for 15 years till that meeting. I just assumed. So I just think those two need to be added to that. Obviously, there's a lot other ones, but those are the big ones. So that would be from 8 to 10. And that's what I'd like to see added to that clause, that paragraph. And then whatever they can do, they can do. And, because Porch Fest is more recent than others. Juneteenth is more recent than others. But we've had some long-standing ones, particularly Friends and Family Day and Veterans and Memorial. So I don't think that's a big ask to add those two. And then I'm done.
So while we're on that topic, I sent Maddie 3 items. Jackie, sorry. 3 items. So I guess if you want to bring that one up first, so this would be which did I name this one? I had 3, it was fundraising, core meetings. Yeah, I think it was core meetings. No, or core events.
Page 18?
Yes.
Page 18.
So that's currently where we are, page 18.
Oh,
This is new language from Chris.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
page 18, I just copied the top so people knew what I was speaking about. And then at the bottom is where I changed it to, historically, RCTV has recorded and broadcast local community events and shall cover these events. Meaning it is no longer optional. It's no longer we have staffing and all the other 18 reasons prior to why they may or may not be able to cover it. It's they shall actually cover it now going forward. So in the list of annual events, I cleaned up the language because it said Memorial Day Parade. It's Memorial Day. Veterans Day Parade, it doesn't have a parade, so I cleaned that language up. I struck the state elections because we don't cover state elections. The news does that. So they don't have to worry about somehow covering a state election. Local election obviously stays there, but I added also the tree lighting and menorah lighting to that list. But more importantly is that it's not optional. We're going from an 18-month contract that we discussed last time to all of a sudden tonight discussing like 42 months, which is significant. And to me, that says that we want to have, that RCTV wants the runway to land, top tier talent that may or may not already be existing, and to be able to go from that and offer somebody some job security for the next 3.5 years. In doing so, I think that we have to have some security here as the select board that certain things are going to actually be done and are no longer optional. So that's kind of why I want to see shall include those events. And then if the same language at the bottom, if RCTV is unable to cover the listed event or requested event, RCTV shall provide 72 hours prior notice to the event organizer. Currently, it's just provide notice. So I think you need something specific in there because you can't say prior notice. Well, it's 5 minutes before the event. Obviously, that's not going to happen, but it could. And I think we need a defined number in there of what would be considered, valid notice where someone may or may not be able to scramble and do something else in the interim. And then the other thing that I changed is if more than one event is not covered within a calendar year, this shall be considered a breach of the contract. The only exception shall be a 90-day grace period of an appointment of a new or interim executive director. Once again, to Melissa's point that you brought up earlier, there's going to be obviously some leeway here in the beginning for RCTV to get organized again and on the right path, and I don't want this to hinder that in that aspect. But I think that it has to be put in there that there is a penalty for not actually recording these events anymore. I don't think that it's fair not to cover them. I believe that the board and staff can work out scheduling to make sure that these things are done internally. I'm not going to tell you what you should or should not do, but I think that in order for us to be heavily investing in RCTV now, I think we need a commitment to beyond what was already given to us, because I don't want to minimize the entire contract, but essentially all RCTV has to do is record 5 meetings a year and have a teacher over at the school. That's it. All this other stuff is filler, fluff, guardrails to prevent XYZ, don't even have to fundraise at this point. All of it is just filler. 5 meetings and a teacher over at the school. I cannot in good conscience continue with not having events covered in town. I mean, the community clearly wants it, and I think it's in RCTV's best interest to do it. So that's kind of what my proposal is for covering this going forward. And like I said, I provided the grace period in here for somebody taking over, because I understand it's not as easy as flipping a switch. But this way here, the next executive director is going to look at this and they're going to realize I have these 9 days. Pretty much all of them are already predetermined dates ahead of time. I get these 9 days, I got to cover the year. Set the schedule at the beginning of the year. My wife at Children's Hospital, they book out the entire year of on-call coverage. Obviously, it's Children's. They got a little bit more money, but there's no reason why this can't be done with scheduling. That's all it simply scales out to be. So that's my bigger change. The other two are the fundraising thing. I changed that to quarterly, and now it's 4 events, or it's not the hill that I'm going to die on, because I understand that PEG funding is only going in one direction without the state intervening like they're currently doing with doing the PEG funding for ISPs and all that stuff and getting the money that way, which will be a significant influx of money if they can get it flipped to no longer require cable access to end up needing, internet access instead. But if that does not happen, when you look at RCTV's finances and scale out salaries and expenses and everything, that goes one direction, and the PEG funding goes in the other direction. And you scale it out to 5 years, and the writing is on the wall. So to not have fundraising in there, it is to your detriment. I can suggest very simply Mandarin, Dandelions, Fuddruckers, and then I'm forgetting one. But there's your 4 fundraising events a year at minimum. You can do more, obviously. Chick-fil-A does them. Any one of these things. It's fill out a form thing and you're good. But RCTV has to do more than just quarterly funding to, in my opinion, stay funded in the next 5 years without intervention from the state. And I think those were my only, so I had that. Oh, so somebody missed, and so if you want to just bring up core meetings real quick. Jackie, the other email I sent you. Not that this is massive, but under the list of core meetings, which is page 9, they list out all the core meetings that they were going to cover, blah, blah, blah. Board of Library Trustees was omitted from that covering. Is there a reason why?
I feel like there was, but I couldn't remember.
It has never been a core. It has never been a core meeting. It started, obviously, like things in COVID when we started with Zoom, and then after COVID, the library, they reached out to us and we had said, it was not a core meeting. So as long as it continued on Zoom, we were able to make that capability because it's at the library. So if it does meet on the night of another meeting, like here, if CPDC and select board meet on the same night, we can handle 2 meetings at one time, but it starts to get tricky when these meetings start to separate. So as long as I've been with RCTV, library has never been a core meeting. It's always been, it wasn't even a non-core meeting until we took it on a few years back.
So in my opinion, and I'm just one, I think that they're an elected board, they should be covered. You're covering them anyway already. So in essence, as long as the remote participation continues, you're not going to, this isn't going to really affect you.
Yeah, it's not anything, just about anything on Zoom is not problematic for us. My only concern would be turning into core is that then the expectation is that we are sending a crew to the library every time there's a board of library meeting. And when that, like I said, that was lower on the totem pole for us. So if it continues on Zoom, not a problem.
So I wonder, because I would still like it to be in there because, like I said, it's an elected body. Finance Committee is not. I thank you for covering Finance Committee. I still think that we should have it in there. And I think by the time that the 36 months is up, maybe remote participation might be over. And obviously there's a little wiggle room, but I don't see why it can't just remain in there for now. And then if remote stuff gets taken away, believe me, you're going to have to do a complete overhaul. Mm-hmm. This is going to be a complete overhaul, so I understand that. Mm-hmm. But I think that libraries should be covered. There's no reason they shouldn't be.
Like I said, as long as you are all okay with it being a remote Zoom covered meeting, because they do have a tendency to meet when other CPDC and other groups are meeting at the same time, and that's not a problem.
So for the public to know how we're differentiating these, it's essentially somebody zooming in on me right now, as opposed to getting the overview mm-hmm. of the room, which is the Zoom and sometimes has a speaker view. That's all that's really changing. Mm-hmm. So obviously covering the Zoom meetings is super easy and the quality is significantly better.
Super easy to a degree. We can do 4 meetings at one time with the equipment that we have. So anything that goes beyond that, as of right now, 4 has always been the max that the town has ever had.
Like if you were to email me and say we had a problem, we try to cover 5, yeah, like I can understand.
Well, typically that's what I do. I reach out to Matt and I say, hey, you have a couple extra meetings happening that night. Can you give me a tier of, what you want live and how we can sort of play around with that? That's usually what I do anyways.
So I think if we can add this under the understanding of what we came up with now, and then obviously when the contract gets redone 5 years from now, or remote participation changes, that, we can work together on something.
Can we just add via Zoom to that last paragraph to make it simple?
I mean,
If we can do it now real easily, then
so Board of Library Trustees and then Zoom in quotes and that's it? Would that,
I mean, if it was me, I would say remote, only because we don't know if the technology would change. Yes.
okay.
Yep.
So if we want to add just remote in quotes on that one, that would be fine. I just want to make sure that all the elected boards are covered, even though you've been doing them anyway. So those were my changes. Changing this, the fundraising thing, like I said, it's to their detriment if they don't. I think that whether it's a material breach or not, you can scale it out and wonder if they're going to be there in 5 years, due to funding. So that's not the hill that I'm willing to die on for that. I would just caution that they absolutely have to do fundraising and more. It's got to be more than that without state intervention. It's unfortunate. So those were my changes. Obviously, covering events now going forward is my bigger one. And then thank you for covering the sports and offering to train and help everybody over there. I don't know if you want to just briefly explain the scenario with the hockey game thing. I knew you thought you were going to get away, but I have to know. Because
It's not the
people are
getaway, it's the
asking.
me being able to explain it. Because as everyone pretty much knows, I am not the tech person. But we did have our contracted IT tech out today, looking at many locations here in town. And we still just can't get that feed from Burbank. So we don't exactly understand last year how that feed worked, as we are not the people that had set up that feed. That person is no longer with us. So we're trying, the best we can now. We're struggling into the holidays. So obviously this is a hired out contractor. He's not somebody that works for us full time. Even giving us today was because he had a cancellation that he could give us today. So I'm waiting back. He's supposed to be sending a debrief. I actually think I might have an email from him for us to be able to look at it. But again, I'm not the one to interpret it. One of our board members, who unfortunately is not here today, Jake Backley, here is helping us with that understanding of the IT piece of everything. So we do think that we have figured out a way to at least take the stream that they used last Saturday and get it onto our YouTube and onto the channels. There's a key code. I have smarter people that work at RCTV that understand these pieces than I do. So again, I don't want to be quoted, but they are working at that. And I understand that where the parents who are recording these games are struggling is because they're not used to this either. So there's a lot of pieces that are involved for them that they're trying to work through. So we're doing the best that we can to work with them to give them the support that we can give that we have at this time. And like I said, all of those little moving pieces, I am not the one that particularly understands how all of that works.
I think in the interim, until a fix is implemented, I know that RCTV can take the feed that the parents are using on YouTube and simultaneously live stream that to RCTV's YouTube and cable channels.
Yes, there's a key code that we're working with them today.
That as a compromise until it's done would absolutely work.
Yes, and that's what we started working on today. Once Seth realized, okay, there was no way he could fix it for us today, and unfortunately, after this weekend, their next game is New Year's Eve, and then the next one is immediately after New Year's Day. It's just we're in a very precarious situation with the holidays, and with this being an IT contractor and not one of our full-time employees that's handling the situation.
IT is definitely in demand, So I think that if you can also communicate, one of my biggest criticisms before is communication all the time. I think that if RCTV can just take a page out of the food pantry's book. She's posting, I assume it's Simone over there or somebody, daily, nonstop updates on this, that, the other, same thing. So RCTV used to, put that the select board would be meeting tonight or whatever, here's the link. I think that you have to carry that, and use that going forward. It's only gonna grow everything that you're doing. But more importantly, just posting after you get the information and when you think you have an ETA. We're currently working on the hockey thing. It's currently down, expected fix by the end of January. We're working on it, just so people know, you know what I mean? But it's good to see that you are actively investigating it still. So those are my changes.
I got one more. I apologize, my mic was on last time, sorry. I apologize, I assumed that the grant agreement was the same as last for the year and a half to coincide with the lease. So my concern is, I guess, by having this longer, and maybe you guys can answer this with your current landlord, maybe not tonight, but I think if you have to move, right, because you want to get bigger or whatever, or the Pleasant Street Center, whatever the scenario is, if you have to move, you're probably gonna have to sign a lease. If it's with us or so I guess I would rather see it be the same term, total term. I'm not trying to undercut anything, but I think it'd be, this is me talking, maybe everyone will say no, that we do what we had originally, and then you have the option to renew that, whatever that equates to for this, you know what I mean? You guys know what I'm saying? No? All right, so your lease expires September of June of
27, I think.
June of 27. All right, this goes beyond that. So you're gonna have to make a decision whether to stay or move in your current location, correct? So if you move, your lease is gonna have to coincide with the contract. To just have, so you guys know what you're paying for rent and how long and whether you get options or not, that's a lease negotiation. I'm just trying to, maybe I'm not, I'm trying to protect you guys that the grant agreement right now should run with the current lease that you have, and then it's your option to renew until 2029, not our option. That way you'll know if you're staying or not, and you go to that landlord, I need a lease until June 30th of 2029. Do you know what I'm getting at?
I think what he's doing is giving you the power as opposed to us having the power, which is relinquishing control from us, which I'm very difficult at actually giving up. But in this instance, I think he makes sense, where it's your option now, not our option.
Because I didn't understand it was going till 2029 till tonight, because I just assumed it was from last meeting when it was 18 months. And I'm okay with this, all the language, but I think it behooves you, and I could be wrong, that everything should coincide currently with your lease. Because if it goes beyond that, then you're kind of like, well, what do we do? So the landlord doesn't agree to the exact term that we want, and then we're in limbo again, or we'll give you a 1-year extension, a 1 year. I just think you need to know where you stand as far as your location.
Avery, did you have something?
Yeah, I would just want to be really clear that if RCTV is going to have the option to extend, that we have sufficient notice if they're not going to extend, because we don't want to be in a situation where our PEG funds that we are receiving from our cable licensees is at risk. If RCTV tells us a month before that they're not going to extend, we'll be in a scramble to get a new PEG provider. So, I think if you are going to flip it, we want to make sure there are clear notice requirements.
I think how it says in there, a period of up to 6 months, well, I think that's something else, but I would say they would require at least 6 months notice.
We'd be changing the dates, but it would be still notice.
I mean, 6 months is something that, Melissa.
So even if in the case that they would have to get a new lease and move, wouldn't it still be a June 30th date? Most likely because of their time of moving from their current location to their next.
But we don't know what a landlord's gonna offer them.
Fair, but I would still think it's within the same time frame. Because they're gonna have to leave, it's gonna be the same. Like if you're renting September to August, you go somewhere else, it's September to August, you know what I'm saying?
I'm trying to control something we can control by wording it to benefit them.
Yeah, I mean,
That's all I'm
up to
trying,
them.
that's all I'm
Okay.
trying to do.
I mean, I think the other reality is that if they're struggling with lease terms, we can always revisit the grant agreement. So there's nothing precluding RCTV from coming to us and saying, you know, we want this to be a shorter term period.
The grant agreement or the what's the
The
short?
grant agreement.
Oh. I don't like to hear from one of you guys. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Kathy, did you have something, or?
You understand this piece a little better, what you were just saying.
Bob Beckman, Sunset Rock Lane. Would like to keep it the way it is at 3.5. Our renewal agreement with our landlord is very favorable for us. So we're not concerned of it coinciding down the period. So we think the way it is currently is more favorable for us. Appreciate your concern, but I think knowing what our renewal period is afterwards, or at least going from what we believe our renewal period is afterwards, we think it's best just to stay the way it is.
All right, as long as you're comfortable.
Thank you for your concern.
You know, for some reason, someone offers him double the rent and he's kicking you out, and then you're scrambling. These are all hypotheticals, right? You know, as long as you're okay with it, I'm okay with it. I was thinking we were going to 18 months and then renewing from there, but this is fine. The contract is, to echo what Chris said, not as strong as I'd like as far as what we're gonna do in the future, but it's much better than it was. So if you guys are okay, I'm okay with it. That's all I have.
So I guess to summarize kind of where we're at now, Karen wants breach scenario struck for the fundraising, and the fundraising aspect in general wants to be stricken. Is that the deal too, or just keeping,
No, I think,
removing keeping the 4, but striking that it's a breach?
or at least have it be not, I don't want any gotcha moments on something like
Yeah.
this where, oh my God, you didn't do the fundraiser, you know, in the right quarter. I just don't want it to be one of those kind of moments. I'd like it to be, give a warning before all of a sudden it's a material breach. You know what I mean? Like if they don't successfully fundraise 2 years in a row or for 18 months, then that could probably be one. But if it's the first 6 months and they've only done one, I don't want to have that be the material breach.
It's not quarterly anymore. It's just 4. It's just 4, not quarterly.
Okay.
So you're good with 4 and
Yeah.
striking it as being a breach,
Yes.
a material breach?
Yes.
I'm fine with that, Carlo, you're fine?
No, I'm not fine.
You're not?
No.
I thought we
Well,
were
then,
fine.
then I just heard it say that after 2 years, then it's a material breach.
No, I just want to make sure that it's not one of those gotcha moments where we're going to trick them into making a material breach based on a fundraising issue.
Why is it a gotcha moment? It's in writing. I don't know what you mean, a gotcha moment.
I understand that.
We have to have some accountability for the RCTV board. That's all I'm trying to do. If there's no accountability for the board, there's no incentive for the board.
But can't there be accountability without it being a material breach?
Okay, so I get to get hired by somebody and not do my job and keep my job. I mean, where's the accountability?
The accountability is that we're not going to not be in contact with them. You know, before it was kind of a big, huge communication issue where there wasn't a lot of communication between the town and RCTV.
Right, so I'm trying to avoid that by
Right,
putting it in
so
writing.
now I think it's set up in here that we have plenty of opportunities to communicate with them so that we could, you know, check in with them. I think that's the more way of holding them accountable for the fundraising, as opposed to just having it. I think they'll be more accountable for it if it's part of the discussions and the communication, rather than it being, I think it's implied almost.
So would you be more comfortable, instead of for fundraising, a number, a goal? If they
No,
don't
I'm
reach
fine
its
with the
goal?
4. I'm fine with the 4. I think we're misunderstanding.
She doesn't want the breach aspect.
Right.
For me in this scenario, I would waive the breach aspect, knowing that they have to fundraise, or 5 years from now, we're gonna be having a different discussion on this in general. It's at their own peril. I understand that
Not
they have to be.
necessarily, we don't know that.
Yeah.
We don't know, but the accountability is implied. Do you know what I mean?
I'm gonna go to this party, and if I don't go, what's the ramification? I didn't go to the party. There's no repercussions for me.
The problem is, Karen, the contract is the contract. Before all we heard ad nauseum, not from them, is it's not in the contract. We don't have to do it. It's not in the contract. They didn't have to cover the graduation. They didn't have to cover the election.
Okay. But
It's not in the contract.
But it is in the contract now.
Well, what I just mentioned, it is. But what is the ramification for it being in the contract and then not following through with it, though? Melissa?
Can I offer a suggestion?
Okay.
What if we take 4 out? And make fundraising a material breach, but not a required number.
Then they could fundraise $1 and satisfy.
Well, in reality, they can fundraise $4 from 4 different fundraisers. The number doesn't really matter.
The number, correct. The number doesn't matter. It's the effort behind it. And it's a behavior that will change now that it's.
But we have, the behavior has to be accountable.
Well, this does make it accountable, because it's staying in
Not
as.
if we get rid of it as a breach.
No. I'm saying keep it as a material breach, take 4 out. Keep fundraising in, just like we had it originally, but keep it as a material breach. If fundraising is not done, that's a material breach, but we're taking out the number 4. We're not requiring them to do 4 fundraisers. We're just saying fundraising is a requirement.
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that.
I
See?
think it's,
See?
And I think their board's fine with that.
everybody's on board.
Okay. So I think the only other
Are they
thing,
not on board?
Oh.
Yeah, all we saw was nodding. Is it my shirt? I think it's my shirt.
No, we're talking right now. I'd
you
like to
can-
hear from you now. if
yeah,
you
I
mind.
think
If you have an opinion on
if
this.
you don't
Because-
like what we just said, then please speak up.
Because you have to sign this contract after the fact. Doesn't matter what we put in here now, we can 5-0 this whole thing. And if you don't like it, then you don't like it. So,
As long as I have more than one opportunity to speak.
you just named.
Kathy Crook, 137 Pleasant Street, current president of the RCTV Board of Directors. Oh, should I?
As long as it's green.
It's green.
Oh, okay, sorry. So I have a problem with fundraising, with the number being in the contract. So I understand that you just kind of got rid of that, so thank you. However, let me just say, in part of that is if we had, first of all the fundraisers, Chris, that you just mentioned, Mandarin and, Chipotle and all stuff like that, that is in no way ever going to fulfill the deficit
Correct.
that PEG is heading towards. So I could do all those fundraisers and that's all well and good, but it doesn't, the intent isn't there. So anyway, with the number, and even if it was quarterly, what if Stoneham does this ginormous, or at least they used to, ginormous telethon, and that was their major fundraiser, but it took them all year to kind of do. So I'm not saying that's what we're going to do. We have no idea.
You
But
said it.
no. But what if we get an idea that requires more than
I think
can legitimately be done? This is where I was before you got to taking the number out. I just wanted you to understand where some of my thought process has been going. I do have a problem, though, with it being a material breach, because my understanding of material breaches are big deals. And like, misspent funds. We'll just go with misspent funds. And to me, fundraising, as you've all said, it only benefits us. And to say, well, you didn't do it, so, you're in a breach and you owe us all this money back with all the new material breach language. I just have a problem with it being held to the same.
Same standard.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say, the same standard as that, because we understand the funding's going down. You do have fundraising as part of the contract, period. You talked about kind of increasing communication. We have quarterly meetings, we have quarterly reports to do. We have to quarterly report on what the what we've done for fundraising, what we've raised for fundraising. We're starting in the new year, once the contract's signed, monthly meetings with the town manager. We're doing all that I really believe with all that is in the contract. If fundraising is just part of the quarterly agenda, no one's going to be surprised. And so that's why I feel really strongly about it not being a material breach, because it's already in the contract, as well as in several places, as well as reporting. So that's all I have to say about that one.
Thank you. In that aspect, it's, like I said, this isn't the hill that I'm willing to die on. They know which direction things are headed. It's clear that they are going to do anything in their power to prevent that from happening. So, like I said, I'm fine with striking whatever in here that happened. My hill to die on is the covering of the events being required. And I mean, that's that for me. So we can strike this, we can do whatever anybody feels like. It seems as if that we should remove it out of there to give, because Kathy made a case that, they're going to be doing X, Y, Z now going forward. And yes, the fundraising is a couple $1,000s of what I just mentioned, which is, you need a couple $100,000, not a couple thousand. So I guess I'm fine with removing it.
As a material breach.
As a material breach, and keeping fundraising in general in there.
Yes.
So, no.
There's no accountability for the board, none.
Your speaker, sorry.
There's no accountability for the board. Kathy, I appreciate what you just said. And you may have good intentions, but the reason this has been so contentious and what we said 6 months ago finally actually happened. And I'm happy about that, but there's still no accountability. And how do I feel comfortable that the board is going to be energized, going to be proactive, if you're not even willing to commit to fundraisers as a breach, because then there's no accountability.
But it's already in the contract about having to report quarterly.
That has nothing to do with fundraising.
Yes, that we have to report what we've done for and how much we've raised quarterly. We have to report on it. What?
That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Right. So why?
And that was not in there before, Kathy?
No.
Okay.
No.
So
what's in there for reporting now was not in anything, because we took to heart stuff that had been said and needing more transparency and communication. So, all summer we're working, what makes sense? What reports do we want to include? What reports do we not want to include? We've had all that conversation. fundraising is still listed as part of the reporting mechanism quarterly. So if we're reporting it, then,
It has to happen to report it though, right?
well, yeah, but I'm sorry, any one of us, if I have to have a report, I'm gonna at least have 2 or 3 emails that I'm trying to set something up.
So in the past 2 years, how many fundraisers have you done?
Carlo, can we just go forward instead of go backwards?
I'm trying to go forward. I'm trying to make
No, I
things
know, but
accountable.
I understand in the past 2 years what hasn't happened. We're trying to go forward to say it's going to be different.
I think the way to fix this, Carlo, to hold them accountable, is to have them covering events now. That is not a significant, I think it's a bigger change. They may not agree to that, and that's on them. But I think it's holding them accountable is having them covering these events now going forward. Not the fundraising scenario, the hill to die on thing. Like, I would rather have events covered than them dealing with, for fundraising things. I think that is the bigger way to hold them accountable. They're going to still be able to do fundraising in the background regardless of what we do. I think the bigger way to hold them accountable, to show that instead of just 5 events and a fantastic teacher at the high school, it's 5 meetings and a fantastic teacher at the high school. It's the core meetings being covered and now core events being covered here in town. That is the way that we hold them accountable, that they have to cover these things going forward. Can you just imagine if, so enlisted in there is that the RCTV graduation is an event that they may or may not cover. Can you imagine the uproar if decided to skip the graduation?
I understand that.
Like, that's the way to hold them accountable.
So I guess a question for the board members that are here, to Chris's point, what he just said, do you all in the room agree with that? What Chris has added?
Who's talking?
Oh, I'm sorry.
So given Chris's point that he's kind of countering me, that covering the events and adding the 2 annual events and helping with the school, high school sports parents, are you guys all okay with that? Or are you gonna have to think about it and get back to us, or get back to the attorneys, because we're running out of time?
I know we're running out of time.
The one of you, all of you that are here, I'm not expecting the vote tonight, but
Right.
are you okay with the stuff that we've added? Let's forget about the fundraising right now. All the things Chris mentioned, to hold RCTV to do a little bit more, not a lot more, to do a little bit more.
Yes.
Bob Beckman, Sunset Rock. So in principle, yes. Chris, you mentioned a couple areas that have me concerned. So let me just touch upon one little thing. Carla, you mentioned that we haven't done the Christmas tree lighting for X years, but we've done the menorah lighting each time. Every time that we've had a request by the organizer of the event, we've done it. So the difference is that the Christmas tree lighting organizer has never contacted or requested it. The menorah lighting has always contacted us over 3 months before, so we could very well easily schedule it. So just kind of in a point of.
That you're aware of.
I mean, I can confirm.
Okay.
I'm the one who gets contacted, so I can
all right.
confirm.
I guess, I don't know if I would have put it that way, Bob, because to say it that way, you're putting it on the chamber as them being the issue, instead of being proactive in offering to cover the event yourself. You've got to be proactive. That's the direction RCTV is.
I'm defending why that wasn't done in the past.
I would go with Carlo misspeaking and it really being like 9 times since 2016, not 15 years. I go with that.
But in X years, we've never been contacted to do it. So it's, so in principle, yes, we're willing. And that couple items that had me concerned was you were saying required to, if we aren't able to do it, to notify within 72 hours before.
Mm-hmm.
In theory, that sounds okay, except we're a very, very lean staff, especially right now. If we align someone for it and they get sick the day before, we just might not have a way to do that. All right, so 72 hours for a staff of 3 people is really tough right now.
Well, I agree, and that's why I put the 90 days in there, because I put the 90 days in there so that you have 90 days from whenever the contract's signed, or a grace period. So I put a grace period in there because I understand things are in flux now, and you need that runway to be able to go forward. But any executive director that you are interviewing and hiring, you have to let them know, I need these events covered. And if you do not have a staff member to cover them, you're covering them. Put it in their contract, do whatever you can to make that happen. I don't want to go to Beverly at 10 o'clock when servers go down. Guess what? I'm going. That's the way it goes.
So my request is please be flexible on that 72.
Oh, absolutely. Like if somebody gets sick, I'm only putting 72 because you might know like a month in advance that you're covering something, and then you're good. You don't have to give notice that you're not going to do it. I understand if someone gets sick, as long as it's communicated, none of us are going to be the bad guy. You know what I mean? Like
I hear
I'm on
you.
record letting you know that as long as Matt is touch base with the 72-hour thing, I understand. You're saying they could be sick that day. You just have to inform the town manager. And if it happens 7 times, then you know.
So instead of 72, I guess I'm requesting 24.
Okay. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
If you're willing, yes.
And then the other issue that had us concerned is, and you said if we miss more than 1 item in the contract, that's a material breach.
I think that,
So
I rack this in my brain going back and forth of what I would do in this scenario. I would have to hold RCTV to a high standard, obviously, to be able to do this. But at the same time, how are we going to prevent it from just, oh, we're going to do it 6 times, and then you add like 3 events, and that's the end of it. Like there has to be a way for that to be remedied. And maybe you have something that's better than that. I'm open to it.
I don't have a solution for that right now. I am just looking at saying, wow, 1 time is.
So everybody gets 1. It's 1 you get like.
Baseball, you get 3. Baseball, you get 3. So that 1 has me concerned. And regarding the communication, we've also, our interim executive director has now scheduled a monthly meeting for the next 4 months, I think it is, 3 months.
Yeah. It's proactive. That's what I'm talking about.
And we're doing that, and that's helping the communication. And we're going to be going through all this. Hopefully, we're going to be moving forward all in a good light. But a comment was made about the contract as the contract, and putting strike 1 and you're out is.
Are you good with the contract? Are you good with the 3 then?
3.
3 what? Sorry, I didn't.
3 you don't want to do 3?
3 events in 1 year they're going to skip? And they get to skate?
Carlo, it's not, we're not skipping. It's, we have a
Not
problem.
skipping. I said it wrong. I apologize.
Please.
I said it wrong. I didn't mean skipping. Sorry. So I apologize. So not skipping.
Thank you.
3.
How about we go to 2 then?
No, well,
Melissa, did you have something different? There has to be, like I said, I know you're not going to skip graduation. We understand that. You've always covered it, that this isn't a thing but hypothetically, if you did, the RCTV knows you're going to have 1 billion parents out for you. And I'm just trying to be like, listen, it's in their contract. Like, this is the best that we could do to do that. I know you're going to cover the graduation. I have complete faith in that. But like, we need a number in there.
I'd like to defer to Ivrea because I actually think we may not need a number, but I'd like to confirm that with Ivrea. Ivrea, under our material breach section 18, isn't there an area that would already cover this if multiple meetings or events were missed, that would be considered a material breach? I don't think we'd have a specific number, but if this was an occurrence of something that was happening over and over, I think we already are covered under material breach.
I think it would be covered under 18A subpart 2 in the definition of material breach, which is failure to achieve or pursue the stated objectives of the grant, including programming standards. And I would consider these to be programming standards. So I do think that if there's, repetitive non-coverage of these events, it would fall under the definition of material breach as outlined in section 18.
And so that makes sense, right? So it's not a number. And so that allows it to, hey, if we have a legitimate reason, that the board will be understanding of it, as opposed to in a contract with a number. Again, I heard it here tonight, the contract is the contract, right? So this allows it for the communication alleys to happen and occur, right? So our intention is to film them all.
Correct. Well, before it was maybe, now it's being shall. So before it was, we've done historically this, that, the other thing, now it's we shall actually cover it.
Yeah, the intention before was also anytime requested, we shall.
Yeah.
And we just weren't requested. So, and being a lean staff, we didn't necessarily.
And like I said, it's you can work this into a future thing and handle things on your end on the ways to do it. You say you got to work this day to Rob and you get Friday off. You do you guys can work with stuff behind the scenes to make sure it's covered. But I think this is where we are able to hold RCTV to a higher standard to increase programming, because these events should be covered. A good portion of them were, but I think that having it in the contract now that they shall be is the direction that I would like to see, especially with it being, like you said, 36, 40 months, whatever this ends up being. You have to understand that where we were 6 months ago to now discussing 3.5 years, nobody thought that was happening. And now we're at that point, and I think that we need a level give and take. So I think you're understanding that. In every of my explanation of how I want this to be, so do you believe that we're covered by the language that's in here of what I'm trying to do by just having stuff covered?
Yes, I do. I think I'm playing around with the wording right now, but I do think this would cover it. So it would say that RCTV shall cover the events, and then they'll be listed as you've articulated, Chris. With a minor tweak, I think we should say Memorial Day celebration and Veterans Day celebration instead of just Memorial Day and Veterans Day, because I don't really know what that means. And then to the extent that these events aren't covered in a way that's repetitive, that would constitute a material breach, and you could seek the remedies outlined in section 18.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So Avery, isn't that open to interpretation, what multiple means?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to have to be some level of interpretation. I mean, if you miss one event, is that a material breach? Probably not, but if you're missing more than one every single year, I think an argument could be made that you're not meeting the performance goals of the grant agreement.
So I think that was Chris's intention.
I mean, if Chris wants to put a hard and fast number in there, we can negotiate that with RCTV.
I'm fine with the multiple language, because when I hear multiple, I think 2 to 3. And
yeah.
I'm understanding that, in the scenario we have, Angela's husband is doing the meeting right now. That is what I'm talking about of going the extra mile. Thank you to him for doing it, because Rob's doing the school committee. So you're already doing things that, it seems as if they should be obvious, but you're going in the right direction. So I think having the understanding that you're going to be reporting that if something happens, and it has to be reasonable. The same person can't be sick 6 times. You know what I mean? I know it's getting to the end of the year. Employees of mine are, sick on Fridays or Mondays. How convenient is that? It's just the way it goes, but not for these events. Otherwise, you got to cover it yourself. But I think we have a general understanding. And if 3.5 years, 4 years from now, you know what I mean, that this was taken advantage of, it's going to be a different story then. As long as you are on the right pathway and you believe you're going to be able to fulfill this now, then I think having it in with the language still saying multiple is fine, because I would interpret that as 2, 3 or more, not 1. So that kind of satisfies Bob and me in that aspect.
So the only other, and this is just to kind of speed along the process, my concern is that RCTV's council may say, well, what if the Juneteenth celebration is being held someplace and we are denied access? Or what if it's being held somewhere and it's not technically feasible for whatever reason for us to record it?
That's not on them. That's reasonable. Like if Juneteenth was held in Montana, they're not going to Montana and covering it. Maybe they can, live stream the feed from Montana's person, but like this has to be a general understanding. And I understand it's wishy-washy because the contract is the contract and we're kind of getting away from that. But as long as there's the understanding that we're going to shall, before it wasn't using that language, it was may, and you had 18 things of how great things have been. I think that I'm going to be sufficient with any kind of language that conveys that with any lawyer.
Okay, so I'm just saying, the board would be comfortable if it, said you shall cover the following events where the event organizer provides reasonable access and recording or live streaming of such event is technically feasible. Like a caveat in there. I imagine that's what their counsel would come back to us with.
People in the room are saying,
And Chris, I agree with you, and I think by taking the number out, that allows us to have that flexibility of the communication of, gee, but we couldn't do that because of blank, right? So that allows the opportunity to have open dialogue about it.
I'll use the tree lighting scenario that, nobody asked kind of thing. I want that to go away. There's no more asking. We are doing that for these events. That's the kind of.
So Avery had made a comment about the provider, so some of you saw me really nodding my head, because that gives me now a contact person. So as of right now with tree lighting, I don't know who to reach out to, who to talk to. So if somebody simply reaches out to me and says, from whatever organization is putting on tree lighting, again, I think it's the chamber, that now gives me a contact person for me to say, so what time are you doing the lights? Because again, with staffing, it may be, if the entire event is 4 hours long, I can't necessarily cover 4 hours, but there are important parts of the event. For example, with Juneteenth is an all-day event. So when they send me that schedule, it's easy for me to then look at that schedule and be like, oh, there's speeches happening at this time. Like, these are really the core events. And then it gives me that contact person to talk to and say, so this is what I'm thinking of sending staff for, is to cover from 1 to 3. You have speeches happening. And then they said, that's fantastic. I love that idea. That's a great plan. So that's my reasoning if people aren't coming at us, then I don't necessarily have somebody else to have this conversation with and to clean those pieces up.
I think what we can do is, with our liaison at the beginning of the year, since we can know it's going to be 7 or 8 events kind of thing, do we have the contact information for all of these people? Yes, now we do. We are adding it to our schedule for the whole year. We're going to work it out. We're good with that. So if it requires some interaction from town hall or from our liaison, absolutely. As long as we have this, back and forth kind of open communication, just let Matt know, Jane know, organizers, the public, just continue down that path. And we're not going to have a problem. Everybody understands people get sick, cover other meetings. You're not going to be faulted for that. It's just the packing it in, that's where you would be faulted. Yes. And I don't get that sense.
Yeah, so from me, my perspective is someone who has done the scheduling and, working with the organizers of these events, it's simply to have that contact person to then be able to say, okay, so this is a 5-hour-long event. Realistically, I can get somebody there for 2. What are your most important 2 hours of that event and things of that nature? And yeah, historically, tree lighting has been the Sunday of Thanksgiving. What happens that one year when something happens and they bump it a week early, they bump it a week late, and then I had staff ready to go for that Sunday of Thanksgiving, and then it happened to be the next week. And,
I think it's good to touch base, like I said, at the beginning of the year, see what you can schedule out from the people that you know, and obviously things may or may not change, as long as it is communicated. Then nobody up here is gonna have an issue.
Okay.
That's, my opinion. So, are you good with that, Carla? The change in the language where now so not putting the number, having it, is everybody else good with that? I don't think there's anything else, is there? So just work on cleaning up the events, right? We got that. Board of Library Trustees, remote.
Yep.
Contract length, we already squared away, that's remaining the way that they wanted it to.
We took 4 out of fundraising.
We took out the 4 fundraising, but they're still gonna actively fundraise.
We had a Board of Library Trustees.
Is there
We took
anything
out
else?
fundraising as a material breach.
Yeah, fundraising and some material breaches.
Yeah, it was out. And then the changes that we had up there for, this is Exhibit A, Section C1, which is what we just discussed, adding menorah and tree lighting, and then also making it 24 hours, not 72 hours.
Yes, that's the other thing, it's
And
24
then
hours.
Ivrea was working on the wording, also for the candidate forums, how we say one host, but that includes,
Yeah.
could potentially
Is
include.
it possible, I don't know, Jackie, is it possible for me to share my screen?
Yeah, you should be able to.
Let me see.
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Is it too small?
That's too small.
Yeah.
Sorry. Is that better? Can people see
Yep.
that?
What are we looking at here?
So this is the provision we were just working on around RCTV. I just want to make sure, if you guys can give it a quick read, that you think it accurately covers what we've discussed.
I think that's fine,
Yeah,
yes.
that's good.
And is local elections clear to everyone in that room what that means? To me,
That's
I don't
April or
know.
a special election is,
Local election.
yeah, local, anything.
does RCTV just like talk about the results? Is there like a,
No,
Like, how is it
they
covered
post
in
they have the thing that starts at like 8:05 or something. With
okay, I've never seen it. So I just want to make sure it's clear to everyone in the room what that means.
Yeah, I think if they want to expand upon that and go back to their roots of interviewing people and doing all that from the field house, be my guest.
Yeah,
But I think at minimum, covering the elections would be, but yeah, I would assume it's any April or if it gets moved to March or a special election.
Okay, great, thank you.
So I guess the way that we can vote on this is we can vote on the changes that we just made, and then Matt can get the signature stamp as long as the RCTV board and their lawyer agrees to things.
I think I signed the agreement to the.
Oh, so we're authorizing you.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So, yeah, so the signature stamp won't be needed, but yeah, RCTV's attorney would have to approve as well, and hopefully he does, so.
Carla?
Thanks. Yeah, so again, a lot of work done by all, but I guess I would like an update from 6 months to present. What happened in 6 months ago when people were so adamant and now it's different? So I'd like someone to walk us through that. Because 6 months ago, I was never against RCTV, ever, for 1 minute. I was against leadership. And leadership has changed. But I'd like to know what happened from 6 months ago to today.
Can we take that off? I'd rather not be on public forum.
We can't.
We can talk separately as much as we can, are allowed to, but I definitely don't want it to be a,
Okay, that's fair.
thank you.
Anybody else have anything else? Public comment? Kathy, did you have something or you're good now?
Well, I I'm.
Well, if you want to talk, you got 2 minutes, name and address.
Gives you 2 minutes.
All right, no Kathy. Nancy, 2 minutes, name and address.
Nancy Dr. Pearl Street and an RCTV member. Listening to your discussion about the additional filming you would like, is there a reason why you don't reach out to the people who are hosting, whether it's the menorah lighting, the tree lighting, the chamber, and they get their volunteers? I will tell you, there wouldn't be any filming of girls' basketball had there not been volunteers. There wouldn't be filming for a number of different activities. Pop Warner, if there weren't volunteers. So this is a skeleton crew. So if you have contacts with the chambers or the people who do the menorah lighting, they should be recruited to do the filming. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. I guess we did clear up the scenario, like you mentioned, the girls' basketball. I'd love to see that covered. RCTV, it is in the grant agreement now that they're going to offer the services to parent volunteers to be able to cover this, and then training and whatever else. Because yeah, I'd love to see every event covered. There's tons of parent volunteers. They need to know that there's a way for this to be covered now. And we're going to have a one-day training. Come to our office. We're not coming to you. And we'll show you how to work whatever, and we'll walk you through it. And it is on them. But they do have to obviously follow, the breach kind of scenarios. They got to know, you got to stop the thing right at the end, those kind of things. So there's an adjustment period, obviously, but they are now going to be offering that to volunteers. And I think we hashed out the, reaching out through liaisons to make sure we get at least these 8 or 9 connections done at the beginning of the year. Anybody else in the room? Anybody online, Jackie?
No one online.
All right. Kathy, yes?
Well, it's only, where do we go from here? We're running out of, the 31st is coming.
We're gonna vote.
Yeah, so we're gonna vote now from that to authorize with the changes that we have, in theory, agreed to. And as long as your lawyer is good, then you're gonna sign your end, and we're done. So, no, I just want to thank you all for, getting to where we are today. I feel more confident than ever that things are going to be covered, and the communication just has to stay there. It cannot stop. Overwhelm everybody where their feed is just full of stuff that RCTV is doing, and you will never have an issue. I know what Burbank's doing all the time. I know what the food pantry is doing all the time. I feel confident I'll know what RCTV is doing all the time beyond recording this event right now. But thank you, Angela. I wish you the best. And we'll see how it goes. Hopefully we see you in 4 years. Anybody else before we vote? All right, Karen, do I have a motion?
Move to approve grant agreement with Reading Community Television, RCTV, beginning on 1/1/26 and expiring on 6/30/2029.
Second.
Seconded by Melissa. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? 5-0. Congratulations. Thank you all for whatever you do.
Sorry, can we have a friendly amendment to authorize Matt to sign that agreement?
Karen, don't you say so moved all the time? Yes. Yes. Do we have to vote on that now every year?
Second.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Any discussion?
We need a second.
Second. Seconded by others.
Second.
Yes. All those in favor? 5-0. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
I don't even know where we are.
It's over.
Burbank, you sure?
Yeah, Burbank.
We'll just take 1 minute while Melissa's gone.
Sir, they're doing a manhunt.
I know. I'm
In my town right now. I'm right on the border. Yeah.
It's great. They didn't catch him, right?
I'm not buying a Volvo, they have terrible repair, but I was like, okay, we'll try the electric one, see how it goes. And we were, somebody darted out in front of us, the pavement was wet, and we were going like 30 in Burlington, and I was like, oh, okay, we're hitting, it's just a question of how hard it's gonna be, and like, it stopped, and it just went boom, and there was no, I was like, I can't believe that woman survived, she darted out in front of us, so I was like, the brakes work on this thing. We didn't have any time, and we were already going at like 30 miles, whatever you're doing in a double line road in Burlington.
Yeah, Peter has an electric motorcycle.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we charge that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Does he have a charger then already? A lever to charge?
Yeah, one of the motorcycles.
There you go.
It's the same for the car, but
yeah, it's just an adapter. If it's level 2, it's just the adapter. Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
And I'm like, yeah, I don't.
Go to Sweden and get it. That's the mistake I made because it was during COVID.
No, but tariffs. No. I think, but the move is the. What's wrong?
Amanda just called and said the audio was on. We're back. All righty, everybody, we are back. We're unmuted, Matt, yes?
Yes.
We're green again. We have been asked to take the ACE committee out of order. So could somebody make that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Melissa. All those in favor? 5-0. David, if you have something, otherwise we're all good.
Thank you, I appreciate that, and I'll be super quick. David Monahan, Maple Ridge Road, the board's designee to the Ad Hoc Commemoration Establishment Committee. I came before you on December 2nd, told you about our progress. All of our members appreciated the good feedback we had from the board at that time. And as I said then, we would really appreciate an extension of our sunset. I believe it's due in January, next month. And we would love to be able to do the activities that I spoke to you about at the library, get a program for an award set up, think about some artwork in town. And, we would appreciate the time to wrap up our work and set things up so that this program will live on even when this committee does sunset. So I appreciate your considering our respectful request.
Thank you, David. Board members, any questions?
Okay.
All good? Thank you, David. I see no reason to not do this. So we have December 31st, 2026, and that is fine with you? That's what we have for the date.
Yeah, that would be great and much appreciated.
Can we get January of 27, just so that we can get through the next MLK Day?
Oh, yeah.
That wraps it up for us nice and neat.
Good point.
What date in January 31st is?
Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out, Taylor.
Everyone good with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right, Karen, can I have a motion with that change?
Move that the board extend the ad hoc commemoration establishment committee sunset date to January 31st, 2026.
Second.
27.
27.
Second.
Seconded by Melissa. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yep, best of luck.
Coming in and
I
being
appreciate it.
Yeah.
And thanks for my son, George, because now I can get home and read to him before he goes to sleep.
Perfect.
Good night.
Bye, thank you.
All right, so back to the regular agenda. Discuss Burbank Ice Arena memorandum of understanding, page 50 in the packet. And Nancy has to leave, so I'm offering public comment to her first before we. 2 minutes, name and address.
Nancy Doctor, Pearl Street, Precinct 1 meeting member. In your package tonight, in this contract, there is a clause about leasing for parking, and I believe that should be omitted, and that should not be part of this contract. I can't tell you how many open forums you had on ReCal. I think it was double digits. Of the 3 I went to, and the meetings, town meeting, updates and presentations, never once was it shared with taxpayers that not only would they be on the hook for the debt, but that we would be paying Burbank annually forever for ReCal. This contract specifically implies, at least to me, that if you do not sign this, it's holding up ReCal. And it's kind of an interesting pun, holding it up, because that's actually how I feel this is, that somehow or other, this came out of nowhere. It's never been discussed. As a taxpayer, it's probably one of 2 options. Either it's incompetency or it's corruption. I don't know which. But I just spent this meeting listening to you talk about communication and transparency. The last meeting of town meeting last month was all about transparency when it comes to taxpayer money. This is on top now of the $300,000 for the field house, the $200,000 for the police department, funds that have literally come into question, taxpayer fund. You're gonna come to us in April, town meeting, calling, for an override, how dire things are, and yet you're giving taxpayer money to Burbank without any transparency to the taxpayers who voted for this project. This should not be in this contract. I don't know if the Burbank Board of Directors want to be held accountable for holding up ReCal, fine, let them. Let them take the heat for this, but this should not be in this contract. And if this was something that was discussed, I want to know who was in the room and why it was not presented to the taxpayers or town meeting in the numerous open forums you have had. So this is a comment I'm making. Hopefully you'll take into consideration as you discuss this contract, because it's gonna have a bearing next year. So if you vote for this intact, you do so at your own peril.
Thank you, Nancy. All right, so page 50 of the packet is where this starts. Matt, did you want to go over the?
I'll just say, so this is still, being negotiated. Ivra is still on the call. A lot of the changes I haven't seen until recently because Ivra is working with the Burbank attorney to button those up. So, I think to put it on the agenda and to get feedback from the board on what's there and what's seen is fine, but it's still, we have a ways to go on it, so it's not like a finished product. But I think Chris suggested that it go on the agenda just to, begin discussions and have a preview of what it is, and there it is. It's gone back and forth several times. Everybody knows the concept. We wanted some parking down there. It's gotten somewhat complicated here and there, but we've worked things out. I don't know if you want to say anything about your discussions with the lawyer first, because I think you have the freshest information, but.
I don't really have a lot Oh, hearing myself quit. I don't really have a lot to add. I think, like Matt said, this is still in active negotiation. One of the biggest disconnects that there seems to be is primarily around the term by which Burbank may use the RCTV, I'm sorry, the Recal parking lot. We need to make sure that that agreement is terminable at will. And so we've had a few conversations with Burbank about that, but I'd say that's sort of the most active area of negotiation at this time.
Anybody have any questions on that?
Well, I have questions as well.
Do you want to go first?
Okay, I have a big picture question. I'm trying to understand. We have the Burbank Ice Arena agreement, and I'm looking at the version that was signed in 2013, which we made no changes to, so I don't have the most current one, but that's the one I'm looking at. And so I'm comparing that. So like, for instance, in this, so I'm looking at section 3, I'm just making it the same chart. It is the rent section. So this document doesn't show clearly in red all the changes that have been made, so that's gonna be a little confusing as people look at this, especially. Also, can we make sure that all the select board members have the most current copy of the Ice Arena agreement? We could just do that afterwards.
Yep.
So, yeah, so there's a substantial, all right, so there's one question was, there's 2 documents before us tonight, and I was trying to understand that. One's titled Master License, and the other one's titled Addendum something. Can you explain why we have to do it that way?
The master license agreement used to be called the Memorandum of Understanding. Is that correct, Ivrea? But the attorney for Burbank wanted to make that name change, so we did that. So there are 2 documents. One, they cover specifically different areas, and there may be some different jurisdiction in terms of who signs what. Ivrea, the legal reason for having it in 2 documents is, could you explain that?
Right, so we currently have a lease agreement with them. And part of the negotiations here is that we are seeking permission to utilize some of the Burbank property for parking associated with Recal. In order to do that, we needed to amend the lease agreement to give us that express right, because the lease agreement right now does not give us access to that property. So that triggers a requirement to amend the lease. With that came a requirement to amend the insurance provisions as well, because of our additional level of access. The vote in 2013 that authorized the select board to execute a lease agreement for the Burbank site, the town meeting vote, expressly articulated how the funds should be handled, specifically the rent allocation, kind of how that is all calculated, and also said that the funds shall come to the town. And so amendments that deal with the way funds are managed needs to go in the actual lease document. Now, the MOU, now called the Master License Agreement, that is an agreement that can be a little bit more flexible than the lease agreement. Matt has authorization, if the select board delegate, which we believe they have, to give temporary access to the Recal property. And so those types of terms and conditions can go into the MOU license agreement versus needing to live in the more rigid lease agreement. So that's the very lawyerly way of kind of describing why we have 2 documents before you tonight.
Okay. And this is gonna get a little tricky because section 3 in the packet is
Which page?
I don't know what page it is. Page 50. I have it open as a PDF, so it's page 50. So that section 3, the third The third part is the most important in the original document. It says third, it's simply, income then remaining shall be paid to the town as rent. Amounts due to the town shall be paid annually on or before March 15th. This revision gets rid of like the most basic part of this, that we are in a lease agreement and they need to pay us rent, and puts in all this other stuff that, you know, I think we should discuss and have conversations about. But what I'm not seeing is the plain English part that says in the original lease, income then remaining after first and second shall be paid to the town as rent.
Hold on, we're putting it up.
All right,
on
I think
screen.
that would be helpful.
Okay.
I see what you're saying, Karen. We can definitely clarify that. I think that, you know, it is covered by the rent to be paid by the tenant shall be calculated, but we can tweak that and make it clearer that the remaining funds remit to the town, of which a percentage of those shall go into the Unified Sports Stabilization Fund, subject to town meeting approval.
And so
we can definitely,
yeah,
we can
I
clarify
would.
that.
I'd put back the basic, clear English language. This is a lease agreement, and rent is expected to be paid.
Yeah, we can make that clearer. I think it would go into the third section and would also clarify that to the extent there's a remainder, it shall remit to the town, and then a percentage of those funds will directly go into the stabilization account, subject to town meeting approval.
Because really, all of that last paragraph should have been read. I'm not sure why, you know.
I agree with you, because
Yeah,
I didn't even know
yeah.
what you were talking
So
about.
I think what happened.
Oh, and above that too, number 2 is a change too, but it's not read. So we just.
Yeah, it definitely had, like, I had no idea what Karen was even talking about.
Yeah, so what we can do, so the issue is that the way in which Burbank's, yes, we can provide that to this board, yes. There's just
highlight all the
different
changes.
documents that have been floating around. Yes, we can provide all of that.
Okay, so then for board members, the other change, because I'm looking at the original lease, is that the contingency reserve used to be $300,000. And,
Can I ask what page you're on, or what section?
Still 50.
Same page. Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
yeah, so
section
then
3.
that
Oh,
3
it's up,
section,
it's
so
up
it's
above.
number
Yeah.
second, yeah,
Yep,
second.
okay, sorry.
So there's no change to the first, I don't think. I'll just say that, I don't think there's any change to first. The gross income received by the tenant from its rink operations shall be first used to pay operating costs and expenses for the rink on the premises. Okay, then second, okay, so then there's a change here. Not,
300 to 500.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
That's pretty much it.
and-
I'm just making sure.
It
And
says why, because of CPI and costs.
so the CPI is in the original thing. So I did have conversations as a liaison with the, our designee, because I don't think the board was understanding that that was the starting price and that they had the ability to use that CPI-U calculation, because I came up with a number and it was higher. And I understand, we saw there's a lot of old equipment there, you know, so that seemed like it was okay. So, but the things I'd like us to talk about is this jump to $500,000. Because what we don't get from them, and this is about transparency, they do not provide us with a capital plan. Like, it would be good for this board to understand why $300,000 is no longer sufficient, you know, based on, we saw plenty of older equipment, that they need a capital plan, and you know, they could start providing us with a capital plan. Like, okay, so that's another one of my points. So they really need to have a capital plan, and they need to talk about transparency and accountability. Because what, absent of anything else, and I haven't seen any financial reports that we're due in November yet, so I have no idea if we're getting a payment again for the second year in a row. So I don't even know. But, and we know they did a big roof, and that was just under 300?
On the financial report, since you brought that up, I did ask for those, and I talked to them today. We should have them early next week. The accountant was a little delayed putting them together, and they were off to the printer, so I'm expecting Monday or Tuesday to have those for you.
Well, you know, I've had conversations with Sharon, and she said the nature of accounting firms and getting them audited, things take longer now. So I'd be open to adjusting these dates because they never get to us by November. I shouldn't have to chase you down and you shouldn't have to chase them down. Usually, but you know, so that might be option we want to do.
Yep.
And then, but I don't think there's gonna be a capital plan in those audited financial statements. They're just gonna show expenses and stuff. So we won't know like what they're planning and the effect on the town and on rent that we might be receiving is that I think they may have, well, they've been rebuilding back towards $300,000. I don't know where they're at now. If they are now gonna rebuild to 500 exclusively, then it could be like 2 or 3 more years than we ever see any revenue for this. So that's concerning. We need every little bit of revenue we can get. We didn't get any for the year. Their calendar year, fiscal year ends in July like this one does. So 23, 24, we didn't get any revenue. I was really hoping 24, 25, we'd get some revenue, but we won't know because we haven't, that payment's due in March. So it's not due yet, they're not behind. Those financial statements are supposed to be in our hands in November, so we know. So Sharon can plan because it's budgeting season. That all makes a lot of sense to me. All right, so that section, and then where's my little, hang on, I was just making some notes. All right, so the Reading Ice Arena Authority is also a 501c, just like RCTV. If we're going to talk, I'm still confused about why they would be telling us what to do with a unified program, but we can talk about it as a board. But what it would be great is to see Burbank resuming their fundraising. You know, since Nelson Burbank passed, the operations of the board have changed, and this is, they do a lot of great programming, but we also need rent, and so I would like to see them do some fundraising. And that, again, that can be, we've talked about sponsorships of advertising. There's plenty of local businesses that'd like to see themselves. It doesn't have to be complicated. I didn't bother bringing it up for RCTV. I'm not gonna tell them how to do their job. They do whatever they want, but I'd like to see the fundraising component apply to all 501Cs with a tight relationship with the town. And this is 4.5 acres, and we own the building, and we own everything in the building that's attached to the building, like normal real estate. So it's a big deal, and you know, so it's our job to understand that it's being operated and maintained, and that's their responsibility, and that's in the lease. And so we had a great tour earlier this year, and you know, I know they take it seriously, but I also saw a lot of really old equipment. And I pulled down a form from the Attorney General of the state of Massachusetts that I forwarded to you, Matt, and Sharon, and that can be forwarded to you guys. It shares oh crap, what was I gonna say? It was interesting. It shares salary data, but there was other interesting things in there. It's just a standard form. That again, that is from the 2023 to 2024 data, so it's old. Oh, I'd love to see the lease. Can we just change the language in this lease to, or maybe even, so it still says the Board of Selectmen, like, you know, and I don't want to open this up to more, but so can we not have addendums that conflict with the first one in terms of language? Is that why we're sticking with Board of Selectmen?
Avery, you have an opinion on that?
Yeah, correct. I mean, we could do a total change to change all, wherever it says Board of Selectmen, just say Select Board. We can add that in the lease amendment if you want. We were just trying to keep it consistent without touching too much.
That makes sense. It's the lease didn't change when we signed it in 2023. It looks like it's typewritten. It goes back to 2013. It's 22 years old, actual document. All right, all right, so here's the only other thing I'd like to see, and nobody's here tonight, so maybe they could come the next time. You know, in addition to our capital plan, in terms of understanding whether, you know, they can pay their bills, what money they need to run the operations, how things are going. I've asked in the past to see the utilization rate, and they haven't been very forthcoming with it, but we can ask again, because it's an easy answer, like, yeah, we're booked up 80% of the time, that's an industry norm, 85% of the time, show us. But then we know what they're dealing with, like they can't sell more ice to raise more money to fund their capital plans and provide rent to the town if they tell us they're booked 85 to 95%, whatever the metric is, it'll help us understand that. So that's really all I had on this stuff. Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Karen had some stuff.
No, I just had a quick, if we could just get this updated so we know exactly what was changed, that would be super helpful.
Yeah.
We can definitely do that. I think the reason that it's not showing is that this is like a completely new document. So we can create a separate document that compares this versus the existing lease agreement, and I can circulate that.
Karen?
Do we have to sign both of these documents simultaneously, or can we sign the master license agreement and then keep tweaking the lease agreement?
No, I mean, I think you could sign the master license agreement first. We would just want it to be subject to amendment of the lease agreement in a way that authorizes the actions in the master license agreement. But we could definitely work through that if that's the intention and will of the board.
I'm just curious because I don't know if it's holding up recal or anything like that, so I don't want to have that be an issue. If we have to get the master license agreement signed in order to move something through, then I just want to have that option.
So my understanding is that the requirement for recal is we need additional or it's not so much recal as pickleball, right, Matt, is that we need the additional parking. And so that really lives in the lease agreement amendment. So we need that to be executed, but Matt and Jane, please correct me if I'm wrong on that.
That's correct. We don't have anything to add to that.
Okay. How deep do we want to go during these discussions tonight?
We just spent an hour on the other one.
But we need to get that done.
I think the point of this is to see what changes are currently in effect, and see if there's anything that we want to tweak or, discuss. I think it has to be within the parameters of this.
Okay.
What's currently presented, maybe you can tail off a little bit more, but I would have loved to tell RCTV 85 different things that they can do, how they can change salaries, do all that. None of that is under our purview at all, and it never will be.
Okay, so as far as this goes, I guess some of my questions, why is the master license agreement, why is it 1 year at a time?
So master license agreements need to be terminable at will, and we tend to use 1-year terms.
Okay.
To the extent that we want to use alternative terms, we can talk about a longer period.
Okay. So at the same time, Burbank can cancel that at any time and take away our parking.
On the memorandum.
So, and this is where there's still negotiations. The last draft that I have circulated does not give them the authority to terminate our use of their lot for parking purposes associated with pickleball and listed events.
Okay.
It's unclear to me whether that's something they're going to be amenable to. We are still waiting to hear back from their counsel on this.
Okay.
So it is in the infancy, I'd say, of the negotiation process.
Okay. A lot of Karen's comments I do agree with. I think I'm struggling with the Unified Sports Stabilization Fund and what that would commit us to. And if they're not giving us rent payments every year, then does that mean nothing goes towards, and this is just me talking out loud. So does that mean nothing goes towards it? It stays the same as it is? I think.
So the way that I read it is, yes, you are correct. Anything above and beyond would not go to the percentage. 50% of zero is still zero.
Right.
I think to one of the points that other Karen had made is, I think having a number in there incentivizes them to do what Karen had mentioned about doing fundraising and sponsors, knowing that I'm going to propose 50% for unified sports flat out, not 25 to 50. Using that aspect in mind, that knowing that Burbank, in the spirit of what they've always wanted to do, incentivizes them to be able to build up that account above and beyond. Because, like ice time and fundraisers and sponsorships, they're going to be more inclined to do anything and everything to be able to fund unified sports at a higher rate. If it was like 5%, nothing is changing. There's no reason for them to, I don't want to say care, because obviously they care about a lot of things. So the incentive, when you have a bigger number, the drive is to actually make contributions to that, you know what I mean? And not $10, not $1,000, 50, 100,000, 250, whatever they can come up with, just pump that number. That gives more money to unified sports and more money back to the town on the other end of that. That's how I kind of see how I would be running things if I was doing it. That, this is incentive. Before there was no incentive for anything, I would have kept all the money.
Well, I completely hear your point, and there is validity to it. I think the rent, as Karen has said repeatedly over the last however long, was in lieu of taxes. And what is it that us as a town provide Burbank in lieu of taxes? So do we provide any services to them that's part of that payment? Or, do you know what I mean? Like, what will we be doing with their tax money? Will we be putting it into the general fund anyway, and then
it has to go, it has to go to the general fund,
Right.
and then it would go to free cash every year is the way it has to be treated. But so it could, any purpose. I think it used to be plugged into the budget when it was more dependable.
Right.
But now we don't even plug it in.
Right. So as far as creating, what if the town wants to dissolve the stabilization fund? And then how are we tied up with that as far as that goes? And I think that this doesn't seem to me to be a really good funding source for unified sports, because if it's either feast or famine some years. And so they do have an incentive, but at the same time, their costs are going up. They can only charge so much for hockey. Do you know what I mean? So it's a very weird balance of how this stuff is.
Yeah, but to your point, what is the alternative? Where are we going to get the money to do this? Because town meeting wanted a solution. This is a semi-solution to that problem. Where are we going to get the money from?
I understand the town meeting said that. I'm completely for unified sports, but I think that there are other ways in order to fund it that would be much more consistent than this. And it's my opinion that if the schools are running it, and I don't know who runs what, I don't know what rec offers, I don't know what anybody offers, I'm still investigating all of that, but I think the school doesn't seem very committed to it if they're only going to give $10,000 a year. And if they were really behind it, they'd find the money as well. And so I think that this program could certainly thrive as long as it's funded consistently and through, I don't know what another source could be, but I also don't want to have us tied into this. I'd much rather have town meeting vote to use our free cash to do it. That if we're dumping the money, if they know we've dumped $100,000 into free cash and it came from Burbank, I'd like town meeting to say, we're going to take $50,000 from there and fund this and do it that way, as opposed to us creating a fund that I'm not sure how it would even work. And if do you know what I mean?
I understand the problem. You have to take this from a business aspect. Like, I don't want to say, what are you doing for me? But like, this has to be a give and take between Burbank and the town. The town can't just get everything from Burbank, and Burbank gets zero in return. Like, there has to be, for me, otherwise I'd just tell you, get your own parking, do something else elsewhere. I understand it's not a good look for them, but there has to be the town is getting something out of this and Burbank is. And if they want this and it's solved an overarching issue that we have, I don't see that being problematic. But I agree that something consistent makes more sense. Like, nobody's come up with anything. The Recal is talking about all their programming, all the ARPA money's running out everywhere. Town Forest needs money, Trails needs money. All these, where is the money coming from? There's so many people with their hand out. This is a solution to a problem that we have, and then we can deal with all the other 18 different ones that we have going on.
But is this really a big problem, or is this a want? Like, is this a need or is this a want?
I think that as we sit up here, as like I've mentioned ad nauseum at this point, we only care about ADA accessibility and these kind of things when it is convenient. When it comes down to it, with the MBTA, the new Stroud Ave parking, all of that, we did nothing. Nobody does anything. When it's time to put your money where your mouth is, we never do anything. And I'm always up here touting about it, and nothing ever happens. Nothing. So the only catch to that is when the ARPA money came, that we did, the ARPA committee did give money to Unified Sports, as well as other things that is, running out. Not Unified Sports specifically, the rec committee had money and they did stuff with the YMCA, but it was negligible in the grand scheme of things, the amount of money that we got. So there's a big demand for it, yes. I think that the amount of money that we have contributed in the past has been semi-pointless. We've done nothing, literally nothing. And if the ARPA money didn't come in, who knows what we'd be doing. So I think it's time that we actually stand behind the Unified Sports Program and other kids that don't have the same advantage that many of us have already had. You know what I mean? I see these videos all the time from all the games that they're playing, the basketball, going on to the Woo Sox game, all of that stuff. Like, anybody sees any of this stuff and it's just like, let's put it to an end. Like, we need a stable funding source. I agree. The consistency, I agree with you. But there are no alternatives. And if Burbank wants something to be able for us to get the parking for pickleball and all this other scenario, and it's not costing us money per se. We are still receiving $300,000 from Burbank, so we'll throw that number out. And if you did it in half, 150 goes to Unified Sports, 150 goes back to the town. We're still getting money in this scenario. It might not be at the ratio that some other people might approve of because they don't have kids with disabilities or something else, so they're not taken advantage of. I'm not saying you, Karen, just so we're aware. I'm just saying some people might feel that it's frowned upon, but I think that it's time to put our money where our mouth is. We've always just said this stuff, and nobody's ever done anything other than ARPA. Like, it's true. Go back to the tape. I've made this speech like 4 different times already that we've never done anything. It's always, we don't have to. We have this exception. We can do it this way. We can do it.
Well, who's responsible for doing something? So in this instance, I would think it would be placed with the school department because that's the population that they're serving. So
it's not only that, it's older adults that
well, that's what I'm
utilize
trying
this.
to say. So I think the
It's commingled. It's rec
huge,
in general. Yeah.
Where it can go from kindergarten to 100 years old, and there's, students that graduate from high school that are in this window where they're still on disabilities, but there's no place for them to go. So I completely agree with the whole concept of it. I just don't think that this is the right place for it, because I think that we can go bigger, but we're in a point of time where you say something like that and people are going to frown upon it.
I don't think it prevents us from going bigger. I mean, I think it's a good start, because we did have the instructional motion from town meeting. Everybody knows we're in a budget crunch. And when Burbank presented this, we'd say, okay, here's some funding source for it. It'd seem fair and it solves our parking problem as well. So that's not to say we're not going to look for other grants, other funding sources. We can go back to the school department. So I don't want you to think it's exclusive and then we're not going to do anything more. We do want to get more, but it's a good start, I think, you know, to get down that road. So,
Jane, you had something?
I just had a point of clarification. Just to make sure I read the master license agreement correctly, or whichever document has the parking in it. I saw it as a bilateral agreement. They get to use the Recal parking and we get to use Burbank parking. Did I misunderstand that?
no, that's true.
Because they are, just to be honest, they are getting something, and your point is well taken, it's a negotiation, so this is something extra.
But they're giving up existing parking in meaning that they have to get the recall parking. Otherwise, they would just leave the grant agreement alone and just carry on.
Yeah,
like
no,
nothing
I mean, it's a
changed.
parking sharing agreement, it's
I understand, but they
bilateral.
only want that parking because we're taking the parking away from them. Otherwise, they have plenty of
Are we
parking.
taking parking away from Burbank?
We-
Like, what parking are we taking?
No, we're
We're
taking,
building parking,
well,
we're not
on
taking
the
any
land.
parking. No, well, it's woods right now, we're building parking, right? We did, Recal was designed with a big parking lot, right? So, but, fair enough, with pickleball there, I get it, we can share some more, so that's why we're doing this, that's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, here's another question, could the amendment to the lease agreement be cleaner, this section 3, because this is all subject to town meeting anyway. So can the whole thing about, you said you were going to agree to take it to town meeting for them and see if town meeting would do it.
Yes.
Can that go in the 1-year contract that gets renewed annually? Because things might change and the schools might get funding from the state and they might pick it up. And rather than having to go back into the lease and having to deal with that, it would be much easier to deal a 1-year license agreement that we're going to be talking about every year anyway. So it's more of a I don't know if you see. I mean,
The question is whether the stabilization fund component of the lease agreement amendment can be shifted to the MOU or to the license agreement.
Yeah, it's gonna be a one-time ask for town meeting. We're not gonna do that annually. Like, it's a little bit weird here, putting in asking for town meeting in this ongoing 10-year lease that has one more renewal on it. And then, but this other flexible document you're creating has the ability to be amended. In terms of percentages, Chris is talking different percentages that are here. So if it's a 1-year amenable agreement and town meeting even buys into this, that this is the right way to fund this. And yeah, so that's why I would ask.
So the only way to create the stabilization fund is through town meeting approval. So that's why it's conditioned. If town meeting decides to dissolve the stabilization fund, which is an action it can do, then it can do so. This agreement wouldn't preclude it from doing that. So at any moment, town meeting could change its mind in regards to the stabilization fund. Can also change the purpose of the stabilization fund at any time with a 2/3 vote and appropriate those funds for that purpose. If there's, a huge flood in the school and we need those funds for that purpose, you can do that at town meeting. Stabilization funds, while the intention is always to reserve for a specific purpose, you're not locked into that provided you get the requisite vote of town meeting.
Okay, well, thanks for explaining that.
So what if town meeting doesn't approve the stabilization fund?
Then the funds go to the general fund.
And would they have, so you just brought this up, is it a one-time vote or would they be able to bring it up for vote again?
Okay, so the fund is created at one time, and then the dedication of the revenue stream is also voted. And generally, those are voted together at one time. But at any time in the future, town meeting can revisit that decision and dissolve the stabilization fund, change the purpose of the stabilization fund. That's something that is within town meeting's purview. As long as it's on the warrant, can happen at any meeting. But there isn't a required annual vote to affirm the stabilization fund. Once it's created until town meeting takes an action to change it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you very much.
sorry, while we're on the stabilization fund, the only thing we should note is that if you are gonna dedicate a revenue stream to a stabilization fund, you need to dedicate at least 25% of that revenue stream to the stabilization fund. You can go up to 100%, but you can't go less than 25%. And so counsel for Burbank added that 25%. But if you want to put 50% in there, you can. It's just if town meeting ends up going 30%, there's nothing that, we wouldn't be in violation of this agreement.
I have one more question about stabilization funds, if I may.
Yes.
My limited research on grants for unified sports, there are grants out there, like the Special Olympics is a source of them, and there's some other sources. Can the proceeds of grants go into a stabilization fund? How does that work?
So I don't know the answer to that question. That's an interesting one. I would never put a grant in a stabilization fund for many reasons. Grants can be expended without town meeting appropriation under 4453A. So it's not funds that you would traditionally place into like a locked box stabilization fund that requires a significant vote of town meeting. I can do that research. It's just, it would be very atypical to
Sharon
transfer
sets up
grant
a separate grant account when we get grants. She handles that, you know, through her accounting, so it wouldn't have to go through.
That makes sense. Like, yeah, it's good. You don't always have to.
And grant funds are usually, they're reserved for their specific purpose, so you can't expend them but for that purpose.
Okay, yep.
Right.
All right, thank you.
So Avery, you had mentioned that the Burbank attorney asked for the 25%. It was never 50% because that's what, you know, was made public a couple months back, that it was, 50% of the money. They went back on that and went to 25, or?
No. So I put in there, up to 50% because we didn't know exactly where we were going to end. And so then Burbank's attorney added in the 25%. To the extent you want to put a strong number or, one number, we can do that. It's always going to have to be conditioned on town meeting approval, though. The select board doesn't have the ability to agree to a specific number. So you can say that, shall create a unified sports stabilization fund and dedicate 50% of all rent revenues to that fund, but if town meeting comes back and votes 35%, that's what the number is.
And if they elect not to create a stabilization fund, then that's what it is. It doesn't matter what we do.
I'm sorry, you went in and out, Karen.
Oh, sorry. And if town meeting says we don't want to create a stabilization fund for this purpose at this time, then it also goes nowhere. Okay.
Correct, yes.
That's why I wonder if whether we should.
Right, the select board can add it to the warrant and present it at town meeting, but it's not the select board's decision whether or not the fund is created and whether or not proceeds, from the rent revenue is added to that fund.
This is helpful.
I guess my other question is, so I know a comment was made about transparency and communication and how things ended up the way that they are. And I just want to go on the record saying that I never once spoke to IVRIA, communicated any of these numbers, the 500,000 change, the 25 to 50% change, absolutely none of that. I didn't speak to Matt. I had no hand in any of this. And hopefully that is the same for the remainder of the board, because I know that we took a vote originally for various people to end up being involved in negotiating this lease, which now is turning into this whole cumbersome scenario where we don't have a person.
We never did take a vote on this.
We about having a liaison, about having a point person to manage the lease. We absolutely voted on that. We sure did.
Oh,
okay.
No, Karen was here. It's Melissa
you
was
weren't
not
here,
here.
because I remember being 2-2, so.
Correct.
That would happen. Thank you.
So my point of that is I'm seeing all numbers and changes in here and people making accusations that we may or may not change something. So I'm letting everybody know. I had no hand in any of this, literally zero. And I said, I was on record saying, I can just do all of this anyway. That's what I said when the votes went 2-2-2-2, that kind of thing. So I could have done anything. Still, I believe that. Other people might disagree, but that's fine. But even that, I still did nothing, and I'm putting that on the record. So I hope that the remaining 4 of us are also in that position, because nobody was delegated to make any of these changes that are in here.
Can I just say, yeah, that didn't happen. I've been working on this mostly with Ivrea, and Ivrea going back and forth with the attorneys, a little bit with the board at first, but when the attorneys got involved, we sort of turned it over to them to work on this language. Like I said, it's still being negotiated. Tonight wasn't a night we even planned for a select board meeting. I wasn't planning on bringing tonight. I think it's a good idea to give a preview and get that sort of feedback, and I like doing that, but I just wanted, I didn't really talk to anybody about it besides Ivrea and board members from Burbank, so that I can confirm that.
Melissa?
I just wanted to add, I appreciate the update, because it's good for all of us to understand what's going on. I know this is not even close to being final, but the only thing I did want to add to this is something that Karen mentioned, and that is, I have friends in this town that have children that are part of the unified sports, the very limited that we have here in town. And there are very robust programs happening in other towns.
Exactly.
But Reading's not doing that, and they need to do it for their kids. And so if this is a way to create those programs that residents of our town have to go to for their kids, we need to do that.
Absolutely. And I'm talking to people to try and figure it out.
Yeah,
So I'm just at the beginning of this, so I just want to make sure it's stable. You know
Yeah,
what
so
mean?
I just think, I totally agree with you. There are many things that we need to spend money on, and, groups that need various things, but this is one group that I think that has kind of been put on the back burner for a long time.
I completely agree with
So I really would love to see wording that gives them a funding source in some capacity.
But I don't want this to be the only funding source, because if we can find
It's
a
not.
bigger and better one.
It may not be, it could be other,
As long
this
as we
is
can
just,
change this so that if and when we find something different, we can use this money for something different. I mean, I think that's what I'm trying to, do you know what I mean? Like, the lease has been here for 20 years, and I don't want it to be stuck in this perpetuity of just kind of going in when we could use it for something else.
No, I mean to interrupt you. No, just, you're raising good points, Mr. Chairman, if I may. With the stabilization fund, it really gives town meeting a lot of control, right? It's kind of a perfect sustainable solution, and that's why it's stable. It creates the stability that you're looking for, because town meeting votes to appropriate money into the fund every year, and town meeting will have to vote. And if you can correct me if I'm wrong, was a 2/3 vote to appropriate money out of that fund, right? And so town meeting has to vote again to appropriate money out of that fund, and then town meeting has to approve the budget that funds unified sports. So there's a lot of control that town meeting has to fund this. If a grant is found to help fund unified sports, that year town meeting doesn't have to appropriate money. The town doesn't have to ask for money for stabilization that year, and the money can grow. And so it sits there, and it gets used when it needs to be used. And if there's other funding sources that come, then it's funded. If unified sports becomes part of the every year operational budget and can fund it that way in the future, then no more money has to be put into stabilization annually. It can just continue to grow, and you can use it to buy equipment or one-time funds. So it gives a lot of control to town meeting. It's really a great resource, and because unified sports it's part of the messaging that we're an inclusive community, and this is a stable, makes sense. I believe it's a stable, makes sense way to support that program without a lot of strings, and it gives town meeting a lot of power over what happens with those funds.
Okay, so now I'm confused.
Sorry.
No, because I don't know why I'm under why am I thinking that we vote one and done? Like, are you saying that every year they vote to put money into the stabilization fund, or is it automatic because it's here that automatically, if town meeting votes the first time to put 30% every year out of Burbank's profits, that we get into it?
You have to vote to
Yeah.
spend the money.
I think everyone says
Every.
Yes, so you create the fund one time, you vote to dedicate one time, but every time you want to expend funds from a stabilization fund, you need to vote it out.
Okay.
Stabilization funds, generally, you don't vote out every year. You can, but you don't. There was a change last year. It used to be, or 2 years ago now, it used to be that it required a 2/3 vote of town meeting to appropriate out of a stabilization fund. Now it's only a majority vote for special purpose stabilization funds. This would constitute a special purpose stabilization fund, so it would require a majority vote. To the extent you want to dissolve the fund or change the purpose of the fund at any point in the future, that would require a 2/3 vote.
Okay, so they vote once, they open the fund, let's say they say 50% is gonna go there. Let's say it's 25% the first year, being conservative. The next year, somebody can make a motion and say, this year I want to put 50% in the stabilization fund. So it's always up to town meeting every year to decide if they want to change the percentage, if they want, correct?
Correct, but if they don't change it, then the original percentage carries through. So when you dedicate a revenue stream, the intention really is it's gonna stay for many years. That's the thought process behind that piece of legislation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ivrea.
Thank you, Jane.
So I guess a follow-up question. So I know things weren't red lines, so I missed the stuff as well, and I know we're gonna clear this up in the future. So who made the change from 300,000 to 500,000?
That came from Burbank.
Okay, so did the 300,000 number exist for the past 22 years? Was it set at 300,000 22 years ago when this was created?
Yes, and you can look at the 2013 lease agreement, section 3 says that the contingency reserve shall not exceed 300,000 at any given moment without permission from the Board of Selectmen. But the cap shall increase to reflect the consumer price index. So it's just changing that 300,000 to 500,000.
Yeah, because to me, like, we're dealing with a figure that was done 22 years ago. That's why, like, there has to be a reason why we go from 300 to 500, and the answer is it was done 22 years ago. Like, they were operating under a $300,000 scenario.
Data. People want data.
That is data. It's 22 years, 300,000. I mean, it seems like data to me.
You made me think of a good question on a different topic in here. Can I ask?
Of course.
Thank you. I'm looking at the insurance limits. I never see anybody doing liability for 1 million and 2 million anymore. Do you think we could ask their attorney whether I don't know if it's still standard like 1 and 3 for liability, but that hasn't been updated in 20, 30 years either.
That's a good point.
It's a good
So I'm
liability.
gonna defer to Matt and Jane on that one because when I got the documents, these were the limited changes that our office was asked to make. We're happy to make those requests, but I don't know if there was additional conversation that went on.
I mean, I'm sure it didn't because you guys went in there with like, how do we work out the parking situation? But I've been asking as a select board member for 5 years to say, or since 2023 when it came up for renewal, to say, can we look at this? It's really old. Like, can we just go through this? And we haven't been able to do that. So I'm kind of like.
The insurance limits in this document exceed our current requirements for typical insurance requirements that are dictated by Maya, and that's just in the aggregate. Typically, it's like 2 million in aggregate, and so this is 3 million in aggregate for bodily injury.
Where does it say that?
Page 64 of the packet, section 5, insurance. Sure, I'm in the right place.
Oh, so maybe it is changed because I think in the original.
Oh, no, no, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Sorry, I'm looking at RCTV.
Well, you're our insurance guru, so.
Yeah, we
get sued.
No, I was looking at it. I was the right one. It looks, it's the same language. It's literally the same language. Because it's our standard boilerplate insurance, but it's the $3 million aggregate is higher than our typical $2 million aggregate. We change it for some things. For instance, we spoke recently about increasing the aggregate on our recal and our construction projects that we're requiring the general contractors to carry.
Okay, what is?
So I think the confusion is that that page of the PDF, page 64, that's in the master license agreement. So we require that because if they're going to be parking on our property, we want that level of insurance. But the insurance levels in the actual lease agreement are lower.
Okay, that's what I'm asking
Okay.
about.
That's what I'm reading.
Because it's not a
Right.
difficult
So-
change, and if it's out of date, I would think they would be something that they might care about too.
So we can definitely make that request and see.
Fair enough, thank you.
Yep.
Listen,
Well, if we're requesting it in the new document, won't they have to change it anyway?
It might be a moot point. If they have to carry a higher coverage level so that they can, utilize our
Yeah, they're gonna do it on their
on the occasional time, that's our standard boilerplate, then they're gonna have to raise their coverages. So,
all right, so I had proposed, I want to see about getting rid of the language of 25 up to 50. I would like to see the language be a flat 50% and get the board's input on that. And then this way here, when this comes to a final contract, we aren't negotiating it then. So that's where I'm at. Melissa.
So I just have a quick question, and not that I have anything against saying 50, but Ivrea said something that made me pause. Ivrea, if this was to be put in here and change the current wording, and it's brought to town meeting and it is not voted on to approve, then it's over. But if we have a range, or could town meeting change it on the floor?
So town meeting can vote whatever it wants. The way that this is set up is that compliance is conditioned on town meeting approval. So if you put in 50% and town meeting votes 35%, now that's the amount that is going to the stabilization fund and the provisions inapplicable.
Okay, that's all.
Yeah.
That was my only question. Thank you.
I'm fine with town meeting changing the number, whatever they feel like. For me to be comfortable, I would like to see 50%. And I think that that kind of number offers an incentive, like I said, to raise even more money than they have previously done. It's motivation to me. That's a pretty big motivator. And if 50% of zero is zero, then it remains zero. But I think that, I think they would be highly more motivated to do something where they know that the money is specifically going for this, as opposed to pet projects or whatever else, things that we decide, are more important than unified sports in town.
Paying Jane's salary?
No.
Sorry to put you, I know, yeah.
It could be anything. I'd like to see some roads fixed.
Fire trucks, we gotta buy a new fire truck.
But now they're more incentivized on the 50% portion, which means the other 50% is also coming back to the town.
And what did we get for rent last year?
It doesn't, they fixed the roof, Karen,
No, that was 2 years ago.
but they fixed the roof and had to build back up the reserves, correct?
What did we get for rent last year?
I don't know what they got for rent last year.
Zero.
But what I
Don't
do,
get too excited about, all I'm saying is we're gonna have to look for other funding sources, because they are building up their reserves again, you're
my
right.
thing with that is, if I don't hear a peep from the Burbank Ice Arena about ice being melted and not working and things being closed for hockey season for 3 weeks, and if I literally hear nothing from anybody on the Burbank Ice Arena ever again, they're doing their job. As far as I'm concerned, and like I said, I already took care of the communication aspect. Ed's posting all the time over there on, I assume it's him, on Facebook notifying public. It might seem pointless, but some other organizations don't actually do that. And I think that it's, for us, like I said, transparency, public, they posted on their Facebook about some part that they had in stock that they fixed. So they are doing upkeep and maintenance. They're not gonna want the building to fall down. And it's not up to me to decide whether or not they, decide to have something go wrong during hockey season. There's no way they are going to allow.
Guess who they're gonna call when the rink is closed? So it's our purview to make sure things are operationally sound.
Somehow they've managed to go this long without a single hiccup ever over there. unless you know something that I don't.
Some wood or something? I know,
Well,
right? He's
I'm
saying
like,
stuff like that, I
You
know.
have to go on history. Listen, we just dealt with another organization, a staple here in town, for the last 20, 30 years. Same thing with Burbank. We heard nothing until we heard everything. Maybe it's the case, the same thing with Burbank, but I haven't heard a damn different thing with them at all. And all I see consistently is one guy over there working his hind off day in and day out, and somehow it's a problem. Not for me, it isn't. I think that as long as things are being run over there in the way that it is, and I'm not hearing complaints, I haven't heard a single thing, it's fine by me. Same goes for any other board committee. We hear things all the time about DPW and plowing and snow. We make all those complaints to Matt, et cetera. But we never hear about Sharon screwing up something. I haven't heard anything. Or, knock on wood for that too. I haven't heard any of that. So like, we have to hold people to the same standard. Whose standard that is that's up for debate. But the rink is working. We haven't had to expend a single penny to fix anything over there. Nothing. And they've been operating for 20-something years, and they'll continue to operate until they don't. Like, I don't see the apples to oranges comparison on this at all. Someday maybe we will, but it ain't today. So I left it off where I wanted to see 50. Town meeting can change it however they like. That's kind of where I'm at. It's if anybody else has any objection to that, feel free.
Well, you were just giving input tonight, right?
Correct. But
I guess I don't know what these programs cost. One program, the select board did allocate ARPA money, I think it was about $100,000. And that went for, I haven't seen anything. Does anybody planning for these things? I mean, I kind of like to do things in an orderly fashion.
So they did all the swimming at the Y.
They come up with a budget. The school department, I'm assuming, is coming up with a budget. And what are the kind of sports they want to offer? What's going to cost a run? And then you can also, we can share that with the board. Here's how much money you need to bring in so that we can have some rent and we can contribute to a stabilization fund. So you see how that all fits together? So I don't want to weigh in on that at the moment, but obviously you're ready, so that's fine.
I can give you some information about how they'd like to expand the program.
Sure.
So they want to provide additional staffing at the high school level. The interest in the current program, including fall and spring basketball and winter strength and conditioning, continues to grow. And it's important that they staff the program appropriately to ensure a safe and successful experience for all students. They had over 40 students participate in the most recent basketball game, and that puts us as one of the largest unified programs in the region. They want to build consistency with the program at the middle school level. They recently launched middle school bocce, winter strength and conditioning, and spring basketball, which was extremely well received by the community. And it's important to build on these successes and provide more opportunities for students at this age level. It's critical social building time. Students, staff, and families have been advocating for more opportunities. They also want to expand the program to the elementary level. There are currently no offerings for unified offerings at the elementary level, despite interest and need. So building the program at the youngest level would create a strong foundation for a vibrant and sustainable program going forward. And further, they want to build leadership for the program across the district. While many staff support the program, the leadership around the program falls predominantly on one amazing staff member. And it's important that we build up a structure such as a district unified council that ensures a coherent and well-structured model across the community. So that is where they plan to grow the program. That's in order, 1, 2, 3, 4. So more at the high school, then through middle school, then move to elementary. So that's the plan that's been laid out by the district.
And so is this, you just pay for it like any other program, and it has some revenues but not enough to pay for everything they need?
They have some revenues that's funded through the school department. I tried to nail down a figure on that. You said 10,000. I thought it was closer to 20,000, but I will get a figure for sure.
I heard it in a budget thing last year.
I spoke to Dr. Milashevsky earlier this year, so I'm not sure, so let's nail that
Maybe
down.
we'll hear it
Yeah,
during.
I'm not
school
prepared for the
budget
conversation tonight, so, but we can get that for you. And then they have a lot of, they have private fundraiser, donors who are doing a lot of lifting, privately to
Yeah,
help.
I was reading that's one of the ways they do it, boosters and grants from Special Olympics and other, and then.
Exactly.
Okay.
We don't charge the student, my understanding is we do not charge student athletes to participate in this program, nor do we charge typically developing students to participate in the program as well. So this is a free program, and I would advocate that we keep it free to participants because those families usually have high bills that they have to pay all the time anyway. So it would be prohibitive for some families, many families, to participate with what they have going on. So it's really just a tremendous program with the pragmatics it offers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So usually when we ask these kind of questions, it's always, we'll find out about it and get back to you. Instead, this time around, you already have a plan in place that they're going to want to be able to utilize with this, which is very rare in my time here on the board when we ask these questions, and it's always, we'll come back and give you an answer.
I asked the question in October, so I just pulled it up while you're asking here. All good.
Listen, to me, I think the number goes up from 50 at this point, almost to 100% after everything you just said. But like, you know, 50 is my starting point, let town meeting do 100%.
We gotta pay her salary, come on.
I don't know why it's just Jane's salary.
We'll do what we can do, I know.
Moving on.
Yeah, all right. Second,
No vote.
what else?
We're just discussing.
What else?
What else do we have? Math's scenario, page 67 in the packet. Discuss and vote on procedure for town manager evaluation, including the selection of direct reports. The current motion that's also in the packet says move to solicit feedback from fill in the blank, must be at least 5 direct reports, 3 of whom have to be department heads, and then move to authorize town council to create a composite evaluation. So every office is going to be handling the evaluations this time anonymously. We have to select the 5 people, 3 have to be department heads. Melissa.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, I am late to the meeting because I was working. Will there be public comment after the items? This is Angela Mendez speaking. Are you accepting public comment?
I was not aware that there was anybody online, Angela. We asked earlier.
I'm sorry, I worked till 9, so I came late to the meeting, but my hand has been raised.
I
Yeah, we
did
couldn't
not
see
see
it,
it.
sorry.
We've already moved on, so if you have any public feedback on the town manager evaluation, I would love to hear it. Otherwise, we've moved on to that. So from the board, do we, Melissa, you had your hand up.
I'm sorry. You said 5. Last time we did 7. Are we just gonna stick with 5 or are we gonna do?
2 of them are required, but so in the contract, it says that the superintendent and the library director are like
It's 5
automatics.
beyond that.
And then it's 5 beyond that, and
I
3 of them
misunderstood.
have to be
3
department
have to
heads.
be.
Yeah, that's the way the contract reads anyway.
Okay, my
So
mistake.
can
And
you
I-
clarify that again, Matt? So we are,
Yeah, so 2 of them are automatic. It'll be Tom Milashevsky and Amy. So that they'll participate.
so that is current, so 5 beyond.
Yes, so beyond that, 5, and 3 of them have to be department heads, and they all have to be direct reports. So I included the list from last year because I thought it might be helpful.
Yeah.
So
All right,
that's,
so we have to pick 5, 3 department heads, and it can't be Dr. Milashevsky or Amy.
right, because they're automatically.
It could be DPW, it can be fire.
I would say any department head, plus I keep Laura and Sean and Jackie as a direct report as well. They would qualify. So any of those people.
So Melissa, you had a suggestion or what?
Just a question.
No, I was just clarifying the 5 versus the 7 that I saw from last time.
I have a suggestion. I'd like to keep it the same, and I'm open to number 7. A lot going on at community services with Chris leaving. I know someone just appointed interim, but with the recal project, and a lot of us were at that COA rec meeting and what's going on there. So I'm okay with keeping it the same and just, I'm open to suggestions, because I don't really have one for the number 7 slot.
And on number 7, so that's Jenna you're talking about?
Yes.
So she's not a direct report, so and last year it was still added, but I think she felt from talking to her that she didn't have a lot of information because she wasn't a direct report, so replacing her with somebody else, I think she would welcome, so. That's what she told me.
I think.
I wonder if we could do maybe,
Is it fire chief direct report?
Yep, and he's new, but he's, yeah, I don't think we had Chief Burns
Yeah, I
last year
think-
because he was retiring maybe.
no, I know Chief Burns was included on one of these, maybe it was the search committee.
Oh, you know who, IT, Mr.
Kevin?
Mr. Comedian, we can have Kevin.
Whoever you want, I'm open to have, and I've already sent them an email saying, be prepared, somebody's gonna get selected, these people are gonna get selected.
Let's
so.
throw out some names, let's go.
Kevin, our new fire chief, I'm blanking
Rick
out.
Nelson,
Thank you,
Kevin,
Rick Nelson.
Chris Cole.
Facilities, Joe Huggins is a director.
Joe Huggins, Aday, who else, who am I missing? That we didn't cover already. Jane, we are already on there, on the.
Well, should we just mix it up then? Plug in some of those names that didn't,
I mean,
or what?
Mix the whole thing up, or just the one spot I
I
just
wouldn't mind
mentioned?
putting Joe on there, Joe Huggins.
I'm fine with Joe as well for number 7 and keeping everyone else the same.
I'd like to cast a wider net. How do you feel?
What do you?
Mix it up a little?
I want to keep Sharon. I want to keep Jane. Do we want to switch police for fire? You know, I wasn't here last year, so I don't.
I don't want to say Rick is too new because he's been here forever too, but at the same time, in his position, he is new. That's the only,
He can say how Matt helped him during his transition into his new role.
I like to keep Chief Clark.
I think you're giving the people that you aren't asking to do this a break, that's all.
Yeah, I know what
One
you
less
mean.
thing on their list.
Let's get rid of Jane then. Jane just- trying to help. Jane's busy. Jane's busy. I'm okay with Joe Huggins. I'm okay with Kevin.
Oh, you wanna put it, all right, let's swap out.
They're all
Miss
busy,
Lo-
but.
Miss Laura for Kevin, how about that? Can we do that?
Miss Laura.
Miss Laura Jem for Kevin?
Oh,
You wanna just do that?
I was talking about Jenna.
so
Miss
how about
Laura
I
Jen.
propose this?
Switch town
How
clerk
about
for
we-
IT.
How about we
Oh.
swap Jane for fire chief, Laura with Kevin, Jenna with Joe Huggins.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, okay.
Karen, you're the only one left.
I'm too new to, you know.
So moved.
Great.
Okay, let's do it.
Wait,
We
now,
need
wait a
the
minute,
last
wait a
motion or
minute.
something
Put that
like
down?
that.
So fire chief, so Jane.
Yes. So Rick Nelson, Kevin, and
What's
Joe
Kevin's
Huggins.
last name?
Kevin Furla.
Joe Huggins.
F-U-R-I-L-L-A.
So we're giving, we're removing Jenna, town clerk, and
Jane.
Jane. Well, he's got that.
And we're replacing with Rick Nelson, Kevin
Fire chief.
Farillo, and
Joe Huggins,
Joe
Furlong.
Huggins.
who's the head of facilities.
All right, we're done. Minutes, let's go.
well, no, we have to.
I gotta
vote
do a
on
motion.
Oh, okay, do the motion.
Hold on, public comment, Angela, for the evaluation, or anybody else online? Your hand is still up. Anybody else online, Jackie?
Nobody else online, just Angela has her hand raised.
Angela, if you still want to talk 2 minutes on the evaluation.
I think she dropped off. All right, let's go.
All right, moving on. Anybody in the room? Seeing none. Karen, can I have a motion?
Move to solicit feedback from Superintendent of Schools, Tom Milashevsky, Library Director Amy Lannon, CFO Town Accountant Sharon Engstrom, Fire Chief Rick Nelson, IT Department Kevin Farillo, Joe Huggins,
Facilities.
Facilities,
Police chief,
um,
David Clark.
Police Chief David Clark.
That's it.
That's the end of my motion.
Second.
Seconded by Karen Herrick. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? 5-0. Next motion for that.
Move to authorize town council to create a composite evaluation.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? 5-0. So Ivrea will be in touch regarding all of that.
Next 10 minutes, I think.
Yep, next is minutes.
All right, I'm good.
I had no changes. Anybody else?
I didn't have.
I didn't have any changes.
We have a unanimous sweep. Karen, do you have a
Let's
motion?
go, let's go.
Move to approve the meeting minutes of December 2nd, 2025 as presented.
Second.
Seconded by Karen Herrick. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? 5-0.
Move to
Thanks.
approve the meeting minutes of December 3rd, 2025 as presented.
Second.
Seconded by Karen Herrick. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? 5-0. Next.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded by Melissa. All those in favor? 5-0.
Happy holidays, everyone.